I've met over the years, yeah, I guess so. You can't make it. Nobody wants it.
Yeah.
I just wondered which side of the
Oh,
equation they were on.
it's all far. It'd be like 2 negative, but he's against it already.
Any chance you know what that says? Not know. This is female, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's last name.
Got it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm in your space
Okay.
here.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I probably needed one of those before I left to go to dinner, lunch.
I'm making a bunch of
Yeah. There ain't nothing you can eat to set on. They speak too much here today. It's going on deaf ear, so this should be fairly easy.
The private attorney-client meeting to discuss litigation strategy in the case of Rad Sports Pasco Wiregrass LLC versus Pasco County, case number 51-2022-CA-0292-CAA-XWS, Florida Circuit 6th Court Judicial Circuit has concluded. I'll call back to the order the Pasco County Commissioners meeting of February 21st, 2023. Please silence all electronic devices and mute your phones. We'll proceed with public hearings with ordinance P53. The clerk will announce when it was noticed.
Yes, sir. It was published in the Tampa Bay Times on January 22nd, 2023.
Okay. Denise?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. Item P53 is ENA 230005. This was a proposed public hearing for first reading on this ordinance. It was actually advertised as a continuance, so the request is to continue the item to the 3/21/2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Port Richey.
So may I have a motion to continue P53?
So moved.
Second.
Let's just call the roll. Is it a roll call? A straight vote.
You can just call, it's a continuance, you
So
can
just call it a straight,
it.
okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's why I go off script. Next item, P54.
Yes,
Denise?
sir.
Uh,
You want publication?
Yes.
All right. P54 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 4th, 2023.
P54 is PDD 230089. On this item, this is the adoption. We're asking you to approve the item by roll call vote, accept public comment, of course. This is an ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan, providing for a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map, map 2-15 and sheet 15, from Res 6, residential 6 dwelling units per gross acre, and Res 9, residential 9 dwelling units per gross acre, to Res 9, residential 9 dwelling units per gross acre, on approximately 12.63 acres, more or less, of real property located off Clinton Avenue, approximately a quarter mile west of US Highway 301, providing for additional text amendments as necessary for internal consistency, providing for repealer severability, and an effective date. This item comes to you with a recommendation that you adopt by roll call vote. It was presented to the local planning agency on January 19th, 2023, who found the ordinance consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yes.
Mr. Starkey?
Is this on the north or the south side?
North
of-
side.
This is on the north side.
So this is the area where we have an issue with the missing multi-use trail?
Is the person that is responsible for this item here today? I think it's Doreen Roy's item.
Hi, Banja.
Good afternoon, Doreen Roy, Planning and Development. Yes, there is a trail on Clinton Avenue, and I'm not sure if it's running on the south side or the north side.
And that's a problem, no offense. This is one of the major multi-use trails in the county, and once again, the Planning Commission's not picking this up, planners aren't picking this up. So this is where we made a mistake and we put a sidewalk in instead of the multi-use path. And as we talked to DOT when we were out at the ribbon cutting, they're gonna find a way to get it back on here. And so I'm not okay with us not realizing this. I'm not. I mean, we need 6 more feet.
In construction.
What?
This is not the part that's in construction.
This didn't get widened?
Clinton Avenue, closer to 301. It's
Doesn't
not on
Clinton
the
Avenue
new
go
route.
all the way to 301, the widening?
Yeah, I understand, but it's
Yeah,
not
so this
under
is the part that has the missing multi-use trail, because it's from Prospect to 301, it's missing, and they figured out the part, and I think I showed it to you, Commissioner, when we were out there, where they're gonna be able to build the multi-use trail
Yeah, on the new
near the
part, right.
sidewalk, but once they get somewhere to the east of that, and I don't remember where the definitor was,
Pull the map up.
yeah, we have to bring back, we have to get the land, so.
So if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this would be part of that county-wide solution that we're working with FDOT on versus necessarily this particular project.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying is we recognize there was a miss, right, with the 52 extension. And as part of that, we are working with FDOT, and we had that conversation at the ribbon cutting on finding a way to get an extended trail through there. I don't think that this development necessarily, even looking at the very minimal frontage it has, is really going to be a major player in part of that. So-
Well, I'll tell you what we need, and what I'm gonna need to vote for it is we need 6 feet from the front. That's
This is a
what,
comprehensive plan amendment.
okay, but I wanna see if is the applicant here, and are they, I mean, it's to their advantage to have this go in front of their property, but we need 6 feet.
Mr. Chairman, Victoria's People's Planning and Development. I believe that when this project does come through with its zoning, they'll dedicate the necessary right-of-way as outlined in the right-of-way preservation tables to accommodate the necessary infrastructure that's going to be within that right-of-way.
Okay, I just want to be sure, Terry, that every one of your staff know that, I mean, I think we need to put some red flags on certain properties, that we need an additional 6 feet. That's what DOT told me when we were out there. Maybe you need to talk to them, or Tina, or someone, but we don't want to mess up the opportunity. So just,
Understood, and we're aware of the 52 trail issue.
okay.
Okay. Any other comments for staff? Terry, is the
Who is-
applicant?
who is the
applicant-
applicant?
Is the applicant here?
Terry?
Terry, is the applicant here?
Yeah, there's Shelley Mae Johnson.
Thank you, Shelley Johnson, 6400 Madison Street. Yeah, I did hear the conversation. They have to come back in for site plan approval, but obviously that should be triggered at that time. I don't think it's going to be an issue, so. But thank you for consideration today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, there's a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to speak on this item? None signed up?
I do not have anyone signed up.
Any on WebEx?
No.
Okay, so we see
Move
no public.
approval.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Okay. District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Yes.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Bradford. District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Aye. Now we'll proceed with the public hearings. Will the county attorney please review the procedures for the rezonings?
55. You didn't
Let's
do
skip one?
55.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah,
Which is the MSBU.
Well, that might be an important one today. P55.
Yes, sir. It was published in the Tampa Bay Times, February 5th, 2023.
What's page 2?
Good afternoon, Justin Grant, Director of Public Infrastructure, Fiscal and Business Administration. Item PIFBA 230172 is an ordinance creating the Coastal Dredging Municipal Service Benefit Unit, also known as an MSBU. There's an extensive background on dredging. This county has discussed this for a number of years, dating all the way back to 2017 with studies and reports done. This is just a brief synopsis of a couple of recent events. Back in 2019, the board approved a task order for some preliminary engineering studies that were done out in Gulf Harbors and Hudson Channels. Then here recently in January, the board also approved an evaluation committee shortlist recommendation to secure an agreement for final engineering for those same two channels that are referenced. And then today, here at this point in the process, we're presenting this ordinance for adoption. And this ordinance for adoption is to create the legal structure and the benefiting areas for dredging, not necessarily to levy any kind of assessment at this point. As you can see here, this is a map of potential coastal dredging MSBU areas. There's a total of 8 areas, just shy of 6,100 parcels. And when looking at canal frontage feet on a linear basis, there's about 510,000, ranging from the farthest north at SunWest to the southernmost at Bailey's Bluff. When you look at MSBU cost apportionment approaches, we consult closely with the county attorney's office to determine the right way to do this. And so MSBUs require that the way they're set up, you have to apportion direct benefit. There has to be a clear record that shows direct benefit for that parcel. And so we've worked closely with the consultant to determine the right apportionment methodologies, and we've gotten examples of 3 different ways to do this here on the screen. The yellow is equal per parcel, just like it sounds, right? Very basic. Single family and non-residential are evaluated in the same. You just take the total cost of the project, everything that's baked into it, and divide it by the number of parcels that are being assessed. Canal frontage, also very straightforward and to the point, just like it sounds, right? It looks at the total frontage, waterfront frontage in this case, assigned to those different parcels. And so the differences between how single family and non-residential parcels are evaluated is based solely on their canal frontage. EAU is an equivalent assessment unit. This is where it recognizes and tries to apportion benefit in recognizing the difference between heterogeneous areas, right, where you've got a mixture of both residential and non-residential parcels. As we work closely in assigning that benefit to those parcels, this is the methodology that we are recommending here as we move forward, is to use the EAU because it most closely is able to consider those different factors between the different property classes. Here's a high-level snapshot here of cost estimates. And so the last time the board saw this, right, there was 3 different areas that were talked about: Gulf Harbors, Hudson Beach, and Signal Cove. And you see those estimates are from when that study was completed back in 2021. And so for illustration purposes, right, recognize that we are not at this point in design where these dollars have not been fully vetted out, but using inflation and some known escalators, right, we've tried to escalate those to $2024 to give the board and the public a good representation of what that might look like as early as 24 in those 3 areas. And you can see there Gulf Harbors ranging from 4.6 million up to 3.4. So those 3 areas looking at about 14.2 million. You can see the difference in number of parcels that are in each one of those different areas. And so that last line in the table gives you kind of that wide range. And so when you look at, there's a lot of different unknowns as we start to move forward with the projects and things like that, and looking at them at the next level of design, that there's a wide range of cost. And a lot of that has to do not only with the project specifics and those canals that are being addressed, but also the number of parcels, the denominator in the equation. So you look here that your range in Gulf Harbors could be as low as around 25 all the way up to 65. Again, recognize these are not final numbers. This is not what is going to be assessed. It's just merely for illustration purposes at this point. So the assessment assumptions, right? When we look to work into this here, we try and net canal improvement costs, right? There's lots of discussions about this, and of course the county and staff is working very hard to make sure that we work on looking at outside funding, whether there's grant sources and other different sources of dollars that can help fund that project. those that are legally available and the county is able to obtain would come off the total project cost, and then we would work on finalizing an assessment that would go to each one of those areas. The assumption here at this point is a 10-year repayment, and that we would likely end up in a financing situation to be able to do that, but a 10-year term is what we're recommending. We make sure we allocate the cost for O&M and administration, right? So we want to make sure that we're contemplating things like maintenance across that, and so you don't have a situation where you do a project, don't touch it for years, and then you have to come back and do even more on that project. We talk a lot about that with the MSTU and things that we're talking about with paving. Similar idea here. We also have to make sure that the county contemplates the tax collector costs to administer and collect on the unit. So the recommendations here, and I know we've got a number of folks signed up to speak today, is to accept public comment, apportion the benefit based on the EAU approach that we discussed earlier, adopt the proposed MSBU ordinance to identify and define the areas and the legal structure to have an MSBU that is purposed for dredging, and following the adoption of this, to hear the item that is very next on your agenda, which is PIPA 230172. That is a procedural item that we need to do to adopt the uniform method of collection. So the next steps as we move forward in this process. Today, so here in the spring, we're going to be working on, we talked about that purchasing contract. They're going to be working on negotiations and trying to move forward with design. Also here in the spring, we'll be completing final agreements and working to, pending today's hearing, with property appraiser and the tax collector, and working to get confirmation from this board and all the parties that are involved, if it's the intent to try and assess a first year's assessment on this year's tax bill, or if that would be later years. And then ultimately, depending on that decision, right, we may return back in summer of 2023 here, when we would follow the normal trim process to put this on the tax bill. That goes concurrent with the normal 2024 budget process. That concludes the presentation.
Question.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Commissioner Oakley.
Justin, how long have you been looking at canals in Pasco County on our west side of the county?
Oh, goodness. So in terms of just our office or the county as a whole?
Well, the county as a whole.
We've seen, in our research going back and forth, I know there's been different batches of staff and everybody that's involved. We're probably approaching somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 9 years at least. With documentation, we were able to locate that this has been a discussion in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I've been a commissioner for 6 years, and we've been talking about it ever since I've been here about doing something with these canals. And I think it's like that project we took up on culverts way back. This is one of those items we talk about a lot of times, and talk's good to talk about it and talk it out and do the right thing. But we've talked about this so much, it's like that project we had before, that this can's kicked up against the side of the curb, and it can't be kicked anymore. And the only way we're going to get it started is to prove this to go forward, and we get these canals fixed for all of our citizens on the west side. And I support my commissioners that are on the west side that have a lot of people in their districts that use these canals and all.
Sure.
And if I lived on that canal, I'd want it fixed. And if all of us agree to do the right thing.
Please don't, folks.
If all of us agree to do the right thing, I know it costs money. Everything costs money. And I know a dollar means a lot more to some people because they don't have as much, but this is one of those things that's going to actually change the value of your home if you're on a canal, or if you're on an inlet or something, or a beach or something like that, that you clean up the west side and clean up these canals where they can be used. We'll get a lot more use, and it's one of those things that we just need to do for our citizens here on the west side and for support of our commissioners. So, but I just, 9 or 10 years is too long to be talking about something to get done. And I have nothing against the commissioners that came before me, but the fact of it is they didn't develop the right way to approach it and do it the right way. I think now we've got a process to go through, and I think it'll be done the right way. So,
Yeah, I would just
and for maintenance in the future.
Absolutely. And I would just amend the 8 to 9 years is when you look farther back, right? Those are a lot more just general conceptual discussions. Right. The vast majority of work that's been done on the issue has been in the last 3 or 4.
Right. Okay.
Commissioner Starkey.
Yeah, and I live on the South Channel of Gulf Harbor, so I'm aware some of my fellow boaters can't get out in the low tide, especially if you're in a sailboat, and we hit something with our prop in the channel a couple months ago. But I did have a question on SunWest. I didn't remember seeing that before, though I don't doubt that it would benefit for that SunWest channel to be dredged. I just remember when we had the Army Corps here and what a challenge that was to get that permit. So since I'm in great support of this and want to get moving on it, I think some of the permits are going to take a little more work than others, and I wouldn't want anyone's dredging to be held up by a permit that may take longer. So how will we differentiate the timing? And I guess I just don't want to be held up by a Army Corps issue at SunWest. So.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I went back to this slide here where we've got the number of the maps here with the 8 areas. So the county, our intention here as staff, as we move forward in the process, obviously there'll be a number of decision points by this board when we talk about when to assess and things like that. The way I've kind of described it in a number of different discussions is almost offering 8 light switches, right? And so this board can decide when you choose to turn each light switch on. And so we purposely designed this. We've talked a lot about the Highlands MSBU and that it has multiple different districts in different areas. That gives us a couple different advantages, right? One is we're able to take and look at each one of these projects in the isolated areas that they are, capture all of the costs and stuff that go to that direct benefit area, then determine that assessment. And we can also turn that assessment on at a different time as we can construct that project on at a different time than another. So in theory, with that, you shouldn't have one area hold up another.
Okay.
Now, it would depend, of course, how you go through your procurement process, and when you go and you bid these types of things, whether it's design and construction, it would depend on how those things get packaged. But the structure of the MSBU allows for that level of flexibility.
All right, and on Bailey's Bluff, I mean, we already have a project that should be hopefully done, being permitted and ready to go
So another great
on
question.
parts of it.
Sorry to interrupt, Commissioner.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's where we talk a little bit about, and I don't have a laser pointer here, but when you look at here on this map, Hudson Beach, Signal Cove, Leisure Beach, and Gulf Harbors, right? I know in conversation and stuff, we commonly refer to those right now as kind of the original 3 as we looked at that timeline. Those are the 3 that are the most mature in the process right now. So that's where we're going through and we're doing design. Some of these other areas have been identified as, hey, these are future areas that on a coastal basis, we can go in and we can look and do some design and ultimately maybe do a project. Right now, it's an area that says, hey, great, there's a number of canals in the area that provide access. You've got a number of residential parcels and canals that go all the way from where those residential parcels are all the way out to the Gulf. And so there's a potential need that, hey, in the future, we might be able to do a project. We are not mature enough in the process to be able to identify how many, what the depth and structure of each one of those canals is and when we would actually even be able to get to design and permitting. We do, however, know the number of parcels. So we've gone and done into the limit outside of those 3 areas we've gone and done here is determining the number of parcels and the linear frontage, right? Because at this point in the process, we have to adopt the MSBU and the legal structure, and we need that information, not necessarily the design and construction costs just yet. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Justin, thank you. Let's do public comment.
Okay, so the first one signed up is Andreas Wacker, and I'm going to actually call about 3 at a time. If you'll line up behind Andreas, the next 2 are Mitchell Kobernick and Diane Kobernick. And when you approach the podium, if you'll give your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. I have lived on Gulf Island for 27 years and watched.
Sir, I'm sorry, can you give your name and address for the record first?
Oh, my name?
Yes, please.
Andre Wacker,
Okay,
6035 Sea Ranch Drive, Unit 115 in Hudson, Florida.
all right, thank you, you can proceed.
Okay. So I've watched the nature walk which goes along the channel that leads the boats out into the Gulf. And because of the weather and the wake of the boats, there have been a lot of erosion. And the roots of the vegetation has been exposed. And this suggestion is maybe to save some money on this project, because the last time they did the dredging to the Hudson Channel, they built a gigantic pipeline all the way down to US 19. Maybe we could just take some of this sand and put it back on the nature walk. That would help the nature walk, and it would also help with the cost of transporting the sand all the way to who knows where. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ready? Mitchell Kobernick, I live on South Shore in Gulf Harbors. I've got a couple of points that I just wanted to make. The first one is constructive criticism. When the notice was published for this hearing, it stated in the notice that documents pertinent to the hearing would be available for review in Land O'Lakes. Diane, who you'll be hearing from shortly, a week after the published notice, went to Land O'Lakes to review the documents, and nobody there knew what she was talking about. Eventually, she did get those documents emailed to her, but my point is that it would behoove the county to make sure that on the date that these notices are published that states the documents will be available, somebody makes sure that those documents are actually available for review. So that's my first constructive criticism. The second point I want to talk about is just MSBUs in general, which is the funding mechanism for this dredging. MSBUs, by their nature, are regressive taxes. And by that I mean that everybody pays the same dollar amount. Somebody who has a $100,000 home is going to pay the same dollar amount when they're assessed as someone who has a $1 million home. And we do have some low-income people in the area, so that seems fundamentally unfair as a funding mechanism. Just MSBUs in general, and this one in particular, that seems to be somewhat of an unfair mechanism to assess people where people who are going to be benefiting the most, the higher priced homes on the canals, are going to pay the same amount as people who may be further inland who are not going to have as direct a benefit from the dredging. So that's something that I would like to point out, that maybe there's a tweak that can be made in the MSBU to try to alleviate some of the disproportionate taxation that the lower income people are going to be suffering from. Since I have time, one last point. I live in Gulf Harbors, and the last report that was done, the GBA report, specifically was not making any recommendation for dredging in Gulf Harbors. I realize this may not be the final report. There may be a subsequent report being issued. But if those are the recommendations that are going to be followed, where Gulf Harbors will not be getting any dredging, then I would submit that Gulf Harbors should not be part of the MSBU. It should be carved out. If we're not getting a benefit from the dredging, I hope that's not the case, but I do want to just lay down this marker that if Gulf Harbors is not going to be receiving any direct benefit by Gulf Harbors being dredged, I don't believe it should be part of the MSBU boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, do you want to correct what might be a misinformation?
We will go through that when staff comes back up after like
Okay,
we
great.
normally do.
All right, thanks.
Sorry, I'm short.
You're good.
My name is Diane Kobernick, 5001 South Shore, Gulf Harbors. I understand that it does not matter what I say here. That will change your minds. But for the record, your legacy will be a commission that has ruined our beautiful, quiet county by overbuilding and overtaxing your citizens. Under your commission, we now have 3 separate school taxes, 2 separate fire rescue bonds to repay, 2 separate jail bonds to repay, 2 separate Parks and Recs bonds to repay, 2 separate library bonds to repay, and not to mention the stormwater that was increased 61% a few years ago. Under your commission, you have removed the county's responsibility for safe roads, first with paving assessments, and now you intend to create MSTU for this. Need street lights for safety? No problem. Street light assessments. Your commission has used the novel MSBU tax for the purchase of land at overinflated prices by saying it will benefit the area. What do our regular property taxes pay for? Well, my research shows increases in salaries of elected officials, salary increases for Pasco County employees, renovations for this county's buildings and others, building and maintenance for pet projects such as miles for bike trails, sports complex, ice hockey, Sun West, the purchase of wetlands credits to allow more building, lobbyists, outside attorneys for defending the county,
and lots of money on various studies for pet projects. The explosion of homeless in Pasco should give you pause for creating another tax. The dredging cost is unknown. The contract has not been given. And most of all, the cost of your constituents is unknown. Please vote no until you get your facts straight. It is premature. You don't even know if HB 1061 will even allow you to dredge in certain areas. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the next three on the list. The first one is Melissa Horn, followed by Mark Reidiger, followed by Margie Bradley.
Hello there, Melissa Horn, 13704 Janita Drive in Hudson. Along with Commissioner Oakley, this has been an agenda since I started coming to these meetings in 2017. And here we are talking about the same thing. I totally agree that Hudson Beach Channel needs to be done. And I think it needs to be done before Gulf Harbors. Hudson Beach supports 8 different residential neighborhoods. It also supports 3 marinas, a public boat ramp at Robert Strickland Park, a Freedom Boat Club at Port Hudson, and the Pasco County Sheriff's Office and the Marine Patrol. My question is, yes, it does all cost money, and I agree with that, but are those businesses going to pay into this project as well that utilize that channel? I'd also like to know, it was mentioned back in 2017, that there was money set aside from the BP oil spill for this project. Where's that? Is this all funding going to come from the taxpayers? I also want to mention that, along with what the previous speaker said, rising costs of those living on the water is going up. Our homeowners insurance doubled last year. According to a WFLA report, in the last 3 years, Florida homeowners insurance rates have gone up 100% and are expected to go up another 40 and 50% in June. Our flood insurance rates are outrageous, with another increase expected in April. These costs alone are killing the dream of living on the water and pushing people out. Not just working people, but these senior citizens and those on fixed incomes. So my question is, again, what is this tax assessment going to cost us to have this project done? And based on the slide, $25 to $65 million, that's a huge gap. Like, we need some concrete numbers and some concrete costs to the individual taxpayers. Thank you.
Mark Rediger, 12705 Second Island, Hudson. I first started following this at our first meeting with the chairman, 2015 at Sea Pines. It's been a long process. We avoided 2022 like the plague. 2021 in October, our chairman says, nothing will happen to this project during 2022. Here we are in 2023. Now we're talking about an MSBU. Originally, we talked about BP money and other funding from the state and federal grants to help us with this. Seems like that's all gone. I'm curious about the accounting of expenditures for the BP funds. Where did they go? Does anybody know? We also have runoff issues from Bear Creek that fill our channels. That's created by DOT cleaning of Bear Creek. I'll be responsible for all those problems. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Margie Bradley, and I'll be quite frank with you. I'm near deaf, so I heard nothing people said. You're not closed caption here. I'm a owner in Gulf Harbors condominium, and I went on Friday to your infrastructure office to get a lot of information, which was presented today but was not available on Friday. So some of the things I had to say were not appropriate. But I'm actually opposed to this project. Gulf Harbors has a seawall, no docks. I counted 75 properties across the way that had docks or on the seawall. I lived on an island before, and the tide goes in, the tide goes out, the canals go away, the storms come in, they damage the work you've done. I think the idea of this district is kind of on the ridiculous side. I thought it was a jump ahead to form the district and charge the people in the tax. But I didn't realize there was a meeting before. I've checked your websites, and there's no attachments to anything for me to see. And I think in a time of runaway inflation, this is a burden to the homeowners who, when you add it to their tax bills. And this is an affordable housing complex in Gulf Harbors. And the complex struggles it was built in 1960, and it struggles to keep up with the insurance increase, the reserves that are inadequate for the inflation. The cost of everything's going up. The income, your constituents is not increasing adequately to cover these costs. And the commission has allowed the growth in Pasco to become runaway. Infrastructure for roads, water, parks, utilities, waste, and the incinerator can't keep up. For one, the smell for the sewage treatment plant on Parkway in Land O'Lakes near your veterans' home is so bad. And I know that it's overused. I know it's a county-wide problem. There's other treatment plants in the same problem. And I think we need to look at those kind of issues before we worry about somebody's boat being able to go in and out of the canals. And I'm opposed to it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call the next three. The first one is Mike Legg, followed by, I think it says Del Chichil and Antoretto Chichil. Okay, thank you.
So my name is Mike Legg. I live at 6035 Sea Ranch Drive in the Gulf Island condos, Unit 600. I'm here somewhat representing the whole group. We've got some current officers of the boards and previous board members from Gulf Island here. And I'd like to ask that you please vote yes to start the process of considering adopting an MSBU to fund the construction efforts to clean the canals and improve water quality in a fiscally responsible manner in our area. So I would agree with the request in terms of the Gulf oil spill that took place some time ago. It was our understanding that money would be allocated for improvement of the waterways in Hudson, and I'm not sure where that ended up. So again, make sure we're fiscally responsible. I would also like to ask from a detail standpoint, Mr. Grant, do you know if Gulf Island, the lagoon, and the two historic channels that are on the Gulf next to Gulf Island, are they included in this dredging process?
So Nathaniel is our stormwater engineer. He can answer that directly. If you want to take Q&A now, whatever you want to complete with.
Just go ahead and answer the question if you do it quickly.
Sure. The lagoon is not part of the dredging plans at this time.
Okay.
So I guess I would like to have further discussion and consideration on that then. We have 324 units within Gulf Island, and if we are going to be a part of that tax assessment, which I expect we will be, then certainly that lagoon needs to be considered as well from a dredging standpoint. Is there a way I could follow up on that later?
Yes, with Nathaniel.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next three I have are Albert Hiller, Dave Mueller, and Aggie Pernifo. I apologize for hurting that name.
Good afternoon. Al Hiller, 13013 Bowie Court, Signal Cove. I'd like to thank all the commissioners, especially Commissioner Mariano, for pursuing this issue of our waterway problems. We have all been to many meetings and heard so much over the many years. Lots of committees, lots of environmental and impact studies, and more than I can imagine, and lots of money spent. But we all sit here facing the same worsening problems. In meetings past, I was told the county had various funds for this project. Now we're being told of a proposed tax for waterfront owners. I'm not opposed to this so long as it's realistic. When I pay for something, I expect to receive what I pay for in a reasonable time and a satisfactory product. So I would ask the commissioners to keep this in mind when they make these decisions. Again, my question too is, I was aware over the past of the fundings that the county was to receive from the BP problems and so forth, and what do we have to show for this? Thank you.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to address you with regard to this position or situation. I currently am a resident in the city of Port Richey. I happen to reside on Canal Number 15, one of 4 actually owned by Pasco County. My concern is these should be also included in there, as well as the city of Port Richey. In addition, in the surrounding areas that funnel water or channel water through our canals, rivers, bayous, and streams, I believe we need to look at, a potentially larger group, because it's the stormwater runoff that's actually causing this problem with neglect of over 60 years from when these canals were created. And it ends up on our doorsteps. And the potential is to have the canal owners or the waterfront owners pay for that. But I believe it's a larger problem than that. And there's other groups outside of those canal front members that would benefit from this as well, as they're getting the benefit of having to deal with this water entering our channels and bayous, and that should be addressed in this provision. The stormwater and runoff into the canals in the city of Port Richey creates an issue. And by addressing that, it's going to improve the water quality in the Cody River, Miller Bayou, all these streams and canals, and make for better habitat for our marine life. These canals have not been maintained for over 60 years, and it's about time that we encourage adopting a plan like this to address it. But I believe it needs to just go bigger than that. I would like to amend your provision for the MSU to include the city of Port Richey as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aggie Purrington. I live at 13007 Coxswain Court in Signal Cove, and I'm also the president of Signal Cove Owners Incorporated. At the risk of sounding repetitious in many of the things that were said previously, I'd like to say that Signal Cove, first and foremost, wants to make sure that we have priority in this project as well. Our canals are really in bad shape. Most of us have relatives or friends that can't come through the canals because of how bad they need to be dredged, and boats that are continuously props and everything destroyed, and a lot of cost to the homeowners. And that's just minor, probably a minor thing, but it's part of the dredging project. We've been property owners here since 2006, and I can tell you clearly that since the 2 years that I've been president, I've heard about this project, the dredging project, for years. And I feel that it's really not come any further ahead, and we don't have any financial information more than we did previously. That the studies have been done. We all agree that we all need it done. But somehow we are continuously stopped. It's like you said, kicking the can to the curb. and just waiting for more information, more investigations and projects being done. So I guess in my wrap-up here, I just want to acknowledge that, yes, we do need this dredging. Is it part of the cost that we all take? Signal Cove clearly remembers the BP project was part of the funding, and all the meetings that we've had in our private organization that we were told that quite often. So from the people that live in Signal Cove, I think that those are some of the answers they're going to be looking for. How much is this project going to cost, and where's the funding coming from? And so I'm going to leave it just at that, at the risk of sounding more repetitious. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next three signed up are James Manuco, Greg Spivey, and Nicholas Mudry. If you'll please line up behind Mr. Manuco. Mancuso, I apologize.
Can someone help this gentleman, maybe even get him a mic, please?
My name is James Mancuso. I live at 4324 Sand Dollar Court, Port Richey. I am in favor of this project, and I appreciate the commissioners putting it on their docket, and I hope that you vote yes. We are advancing. This is a complex project with many facets to consider. The presenter touched upon a good topic, and maintenance over the next 10 years during the lifespan of this project. One of that, and this is narrowly focused, so this is just a clip shot of what the project would entail, is staging. The staging is going to require heavy equipment, spoil hauling, and the staging areas are going to be obviously in residential areas. So there's going to have to be some sort of contingency computation for the welfare of the asphalt. Asphalt has a useful life. So depending upon where the staging area is, you're going to have a limited life left in that, for that particular area for the asphalt, as opposed to another staging area that might be new asphalt. So there's computations that you're going to have to figure, and it's very complex. Now, I have good faith in the management of Pasco. There are good staffing here. There's good engineers. I did a local project here in Pasco County, Boyette Reservoir, and I had the pleasure of working with very qualified personnel. So my faith is with Pasco County and its staff. I just asked that they review the project under a microscope for these particular areas, like health and safety, staging areas and whatnot. And I wish the project most success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. After being to Greg Spivey, 12734 Fourth Aisle, Leisure Beach.
Thank you.
After been to many meetings with Jack Mariano and listening to all this stuff about the BP money and all that stuff, I really only had 2 points. Was number one, after looking at the thing about, I guess it's going to be $65 a square foot or something like that for Leisure Beach and Signal Cove, I'd just like to make sure that the money that's collected from our neighborhoods is used in those neighborhoods. It's not taken to some other place and stuff like that. I don't know where you would collect money for SunWest or this and that, but at least it would come there. Another point I would like to make is maybe some funding for Hudson Beach and stuff could be done through the boat ramp usage for the people that do use the boats that come from 20 miles away. Maybe they could contribute for Hudson Beach. The other point I wanted to bring up was that I think Leisure Beach and Signal Cove probably have the worst situation that I know of as far as the depth of the channel. I mean, Gulf Harbors, Commissioner Starkey was pointing that you can't get a 6-foot sailboat that uses 6 foot of water. At low winter tides, we have no water. Our channel is almost completely filled, and that's all I had.
Signal Cove and, I'm not a Signal Cove, Westport and Sea Pines might contest that a little bit, so.
West Point, I agree too. I've been in there before, but I think we have probably the worst ones.
It's
Bailey's
very
pretty
significant
bad,
both ways.
too.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Nicholas Mudra. I live at 5415 Joe Beth Drive, Newport Richey, Florida. I'm in favor of the project in the MSBU for several reasons. Number one, as you navigate through our canals and further away from the Gulf, those canals are virtually environmentally dead. 3 years ago, I fell on, with my left hand, I fell on our boat ramp, concrete boat ramp. I had a 1-inch cut on my hand. I went to the hospital. I spent 5 days in the hospital. It was from the environmental bacteria. Now, the pictures are in Commissioner Mariano's office. I didn't want to bring them here, but I invite all you commissioners to see it. Number two, I would make it more public, the aspects of the funding. I know Pasco County is asking for federal money, state money, and several years ago, I'd like to address the public if it's okay.
No, stay here, address us.
Several years ago, 2 counties up north, Citrus and Hernando County, they did some dredging and some cleaning out of the area up there. Part of getting federal money is having a stake in the game. The county, we have to present to the government that the county has a stake in the game. Now, I know Pasco County doesn't have pools of money for this, but it will be beneficial for all. The federal government came in there, and on some of the projects up there, they wrote a check for 99% of the project. That needs to be made out to the public so they understand, a better understanding of the finance. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call the final 4 that are signed up for public comment. Michael Armato, followed by Michael Boswell, David Compton, and then Tim Bowden is the last one.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Armato, 9840 San Sierra Way, Westport. To paraphrase my ancestors many centuries ago, I've come to praise the board, not to bury them. I think the funding mechanism that you have proposed sounds fine. I'm not going to nitpick it about who's going to pay more, who's going to pay less. I think it's a step in the right direction. At least we got something going. But this has been close to 4 years now that this has been hanging. And in 4 years, the canals have not gotten any deeper. They've gotten less deep. More water comes down from as far, I'm sure, as Little Road and maybe farther. All of the people that live in all of the subdivisions that have canals are a de facto part of the stormwater system. So maybe some money needs to be raised, some levies need to be raised for the stormwater system. It's obviously not, every drop of water that comes down this way is not just a drop of water. There's sediment in that water. And that sediment ends up in our canals. And it has for years and years and years. I've been in Westport for almost 20 years now. We didn't used to have this big a problem getting out. Oh, I'll get off my soapbox for a minute. But like I say, I'm happy to see this happen. I think it's a step in the right direction. I didn't see Westport's name up there with the various, but Jack has told me that we're there. I'd see Westport there, but I didn't see where we were in an area that had been an estimate or whatever, a budget number had derived yet, so hopefully I won't die in office before this happens. Thank you.
I feel the same.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Boswell, 210 East New York Avenue, DeLand, Florida, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Suarez Family Trust, who owns property in the Signal Cove MSBU, and we are in favor of the project, of the adoption of the MSBUs, and we'd like to see you do so today. In addition to myself, Colleen Weaver has received favorable emails from Chris Poole and Eva Suarez Farmer, who is the trustee of the Suarez Family Trust. And so we hope that you will adopt the proposed SBU.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is David Compton. I'm presently living at 6521 Southwest 76th Terrace in South Miami, Florida. And the reason why I'm kind of a distance from home, I understand, but I'm here also with Suarez Family Trust. I'm here today to give my total support for the actual MSBU funding and the plans to do that through the taxation, in that Eva's Farmer, who is the owner of the property presently, that she's in full support as well.
Can I say South Miami High grad?
Oh, congratulations.
And Marco Rubio.
Cobras, go.
Yeah, go,
Yes.
go Cobras, yeah.
Amen. Thank you so much,
No, you may
Catherine. Lighten the atmosphere a little bit. I know a lot of people have said good and bad things about living on the canals, but I see a bright future there, and that with the dredging and the nourishment of that area is necessary in order to improve the water quality, to improve the life or the living quality in that area. And I give my full support. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Bowden, Second Isle, Leisure Beach. And I'd like to say that I'm all for the dredge. It's certainly necessary for everything going on along our waterfront. But I also need to think we need to take a good look at how we pay for this. I've been following this for 6 or 7 years. Of course, in the beginning, everybody was revved up. We had BP money coming, boy, we got a pot here of money, we got a pot here for storm money, and we got, well, maybe we'll have to do a little tax at the end. Well, the latest discussions we've heard have all leaning now towards this MSBU. I want to know what happened to the BP money. I thought that was going to be a huge part of this. I'd like to see that cover it. I'd like to see some of the stormwater money cover it, because that was in discussion, like the last gentleman said. I think I'm reiterating what everybody said. The water comes off the roads and pours in and brings all that silt with it. Stormwater should pay for that. DOT should pay for some of that. Now, I was just happened to be at a Kona meeting last week, and they talked about a 37-mile-long walking path and bicycle path that's coming through Pasco. That's being paid for with penny for Pasco dollars. So I think the total thing is being paid for with penny for Pasco. Where's penny for Pasco? Can we get some pennies for Leisure Beach, for this dredge? These are things that we need to look at, folks. I think there's money in other places that before we go with an MSBU. I also think the water from homes. Listen. We're all fortunate enough to have these homes on the water. We get to utilize the water, but with that, we pay some of the highest taxes, I believe, in Pasco County because of the value of our properties. I feel we've already paid for this in our taxes. So before we go and address it with an MSBU and hit everybody up with taxes, I think we need to look at everything else. Again, it needs to be done. Otherwise, our property becomes useless. But we need to find a good way to pay for it. Thank you for hearing me.
I'm going to pause public comment just for a minute, because I don't want to hear the same things over. I want to straighten something out. Justin, if you would just talk just very briefly about the funding that's already been looked at and what could happen as well. Just so everybody hears it, so we have to hear this details where it went.
Sure. So funding, so currently, the Restore Act that's being referred to is the BP oil spill, right?
Can I stop you for 1 second? I understand that this is the last person signed up. If anyone else is going to speak to public comment, could I just see a raise of hands? So 2 more? All right, why don't we take their comment, then we'll just do the whole thing in one shot. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So those 2 folks, please come on up for public comment. Is there any on the WebEx on the queue?
There's no one on WebEx.
Okay.
Okay, Chuck Crane, 3120 Bluff Boulevard, Holiday. And maybe he was about to answer the question I have, but been talking to Catherine, Commissioner Starkey over the years about dredging. I just want to make sure that what's already in place at Key Vista Park and Rocky Creek is still is ongoing. And we are totally supporting the dredging in general, but I want to make sure that doesn't get lumped into what's going on here, and we got to start all over again after 10 years. I want to make sure that Rocky Creek dredging is going forward.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah, and hopefully soon, very soon.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
And just so you know, the only reason you're added on, because we may go further up the channel later on for you.
Even better.
All right?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Mike Wright, 13025 Boy Court. I first wanted to say I'm all for the dredging as needed and where needed. I tell you, directly behind my place, it's 15 foot deep. But, you know, sometimes I see on planning maps where they got a line and it goes for miles. And it's like, okay, I hope somebody's not bidding on all those miles. They're gonna, you know, do some sounding or you know, some way of sonar so that they can highlight in red ahead of time the footage they're actually gonna do. So we're not paying in excess a contractor for something they've never done. The other question I've got is this gonna make it a private canal system with no outsiders? The fishing charters rip through our neighborhood throwing 3-foot waves. Some of these guys, I think they're licensed charters. Other ones, I think they're just, who knows, maybe even neighbors that are fishing charters. But they come through on a daily basis, eroding the walls and ripping the docks off the floating docks off the walls to our expense. Somebody said something about upping property value. I don't think more taxes ups property value. I really don't, unless you've got a huge yacht that you got to get in and out of here. I think this is actually a project for limited people with big boats, but that's just me personally. And I'm not picking on the guys that got big boats. And again, I think this project should go on, but I would like to see if we're going to allow fishing charters or commercial people in there, put a big red sticker on their boat, okay? And if they got a big red sticker on their boat and they go through, I don't take a picture. Otherwise, they take a picture and somebody writes them a nice fine, because they don't belong back in there, if I'm understanding this project right, and we're gonna pay for the canal just for those people on the canal, then those are the only people that should be on the canal, okay? Yeah, that's my point there.
Did you get us
I also wondered is this county property? You know, I always was under the understanding that water was neutral and you could float on the water, and nobody could stop you from doing that. But somebody owns the land underneath. If it's the county's land, why doesn't our county's tax go towards that dredging? At what point does our property stop behind our property? Does it go to the center of the canal? And then can we build all the way out to the center of the canal? Next question. I know some of these are redundant, but just so we're all on the same page, that we're all on the same page. What happened to the tax funds from our property tax in the BP oil spill? They say when you float, yeah, I already covered that one. Another one is kind of off the...
Sir, your 3 minutes is up. Can you wrap it up real quick?
Yeah. The other one, there's about 6 ships or more floating in our channels. I don't know how you're going to dredge them anyhow. They think they're spilling oil, gas, and raw sewage. I've got some beautiful raw sewage pictures I'd like to share with you and where that's coming from. let me wrap this up, I'm sorry. Is there gonna be a tax on the owners, or are businesses again gonna share into that? And are we gonna vote on this tax? And how many years are we gonna eat the county tax that, you know, should've came out of our property tax?
All right, I'm gonna have to wrap it up,
Was
sir.
that a 10-year thing that I seen up there that's gonna go for 10 years or unlimited?
And we're gonna talk about that. And if you would, sir, in the back, Colleen, would you raise your hand? Would you get those pictures? Because I've got some pictures for derelict boats in the canals. I'll take your pictures too, and I'll make the committee
Sir,
report.
did you give
and
your
I'll show it.
address?
And sir, what was your address?
13025 Boyd Court.
Thank you very much.
Which neighborhood is that in?
Signal
Signal
Cove?
Cove?
Signal Cove,
Okay, thank
Hudson,
you.
Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so is any other public comment? Okay, and there's nothing on the web?
Correct. There's no one on WebEx.
Okay, we're going to close public comment, and Justin, if you'd come back up, and Nathaniel, I think you need to stick by too.
All right, lots to unpack. First thing, I want to make sure, advised with the county attorney, I'm going to read the item in full title into the record, so we make sure we check that box. This item is an ordinance creating the Coastal Dredging Municipal Service Benefit Unit, MSBU, providing for boundaries, providing for levy of non-ad valorem special assessment, providing for the municipal services to be funded, providing for severability and an effective date. This is file number PIFBA 23-0172. So now that that is into record, a number of different things here to unpack. Commissioner, do you have a preference on where you'd like to start?
Go ahead from your notes, that's fine.
All right, so funding sources. One of the biggest things that everybody wants to talk about is what funding sources have already been identified. There's been a lot of reference to the Restore Act, right, the BP oil spill. Currently, there is a $1.4 million ask or thereabouts to that committee that has not yet been approved through session. That committee needs to meet again to do that, but that is a proposal that's been worked up. If that was awarded, as we talked about, and we go into kind of what's baked into the assessment, right, when we talk about net canal improvement costs, that is kind of one of those grant funding sources that would come off the top, and so we would look at how that gets awarded through there. There's also...
If I could touch on that
Yes,
just for a
sir.
second, just for a little extra clarity. As I sit in the Gulf Coast Consortium Committee, that's the local as well as the consortium that represents statewide for the 23 counties, the expenditure for Part 3 money, where that Cruise Lakes money is being taken out of as well, there's actually more money available. The way projects have got done, even though it's a 15-year payout, we can actually advance some of that as well. So as we do hire a coordinator to come in, hopefully very soon, we'll be able to come back with that and show what is available there as well as even Part 1 money, which is, we can go over those numbers as well. So those funds are on the table, haven't been discussed yet.
Right, right, and the point being, they haven't been formally awarded by that unit yet, but yes, those are discussions that will certainly be had over the coming months. The other identified funding source, this board has talked about it when ARPA money was received, that there is an appropriation through the ARPA funds. Currently, that is earmarked at about $5 million to be allocated through there, and that'll be something this board will have further discussion on how that gets allocated in terms of what the areas within the maps. But those are the two known funding sources that the county is currently pursuing. Certainly, we're having a number of different conversations with all sorts of different agencies and trying to do lots of research. I know Nathaniel and the Public Works team, as well as various areas of public infrastructure, are looking at different granting funding sources and any allowable funds that are out there. The aim here is to try and get as much of that as possible to mitigate and lessen the costs ultimately assessed to residents. So I'll roll right in with that in terms of, there's been a lot of reference to the different taxing sources that are currently in place. So stormwater ordinance, that was a discussion that happened a number of years ago where there were some direct discussions about, is the stormwater ordinance, does it allow for dredging? The answer after careful evaluation through the county attorney's office is no, right? The way the ordinance is currently written, it does not allow for those funds to be spent on dredging. Likewise, that's part of the discussion that happened when the board evaluated ARPA and some other things, right? And has made some decisions via the BPI process to fund some preliminary conceptual studies that there's not an identified revenue source short of a motion being approved by this board to use general fund dollars for this specific thing. There's not another identified source for it. Rolling right into boating fees. So we did take a look at boating fees as well. And so when I look at the boating fees, there is an optional boating fee that's assessed by a number of other counties. We do not assess that optional fee, but in looking at state statutes, that optional fee also has a prohibition on dredging. So So that is an avenue. We've certainly heard some of this feedback before today and tried to do as much research as we can to address some of those things. Additionally, so if you'll allow, right, apportionment of benefit, right? So kind of discussing that radiating. Yes, sir.
The other funding source that was mentioned in public comment was penny for Pasco. Penny for Pasco is an infrastructure sales tax. It cannot be used for a dredging type project, nor was it even mentioned to the voters when it was approved.
Correct, yes, sir. And yeah, I mean, the blanket statement is outside of the funding sources we've mentioned by name today that are potential sources, right? That would be the MSBU, ARPA, and the Restore Act, right? There is not, we've tried to go down a number of those other different paths and determine that after reviewing that with County Attorney's Office, there are not those other identified allowable sources.
And if I could, for others, there are a number of federal opportunities that could be out there as well. After just coming from DC, listening to the funding that's out there, you'll hear me ask later on to actually add the word dredge/restoration later on. There's a lot of restoration grants out there. When people talk about canals being dead because there's no water flow coming in out, this will help with that. It'll help sea life. It'll help a lot of great things that are part of the grants that have been put out there with the latest infrastructure bill that's there. So that is possible to go out there, but this first step really just lets us up to go. And Commissioner Stark, I commend you again for bringing this idea up as far as doing the MSBU, because it opens up all the funding opportunities that could be out there.
Yeah, so the next thing, if we'll allow, I'll do a quick kind of review of the apportionment of benefit, and then if we can, we do have our consultant here. I'd like him to come up, kind of give a very short explanation in terms of how we landed at that EAU and why it ends up being waterfront based, and so waterfront access. But before we do that, in terms of, here we go. Actually, let's go right to that. So Jeff, if you could come up here, talk about that, and then I can follow up at the end. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jeff Dykstra with Stantec. We helped the county evaluate the apportionment methodologies, and as Justin presented, we came up with 3 initial ones. We settled on the EAU option because of a wide variety of properties, and you have commercial, you have residential, a whole host of different property types and land uses within the area. And so using the EAU, it helps sort of normalize or apportion that benefit equally according to the use of the property. In situations and communities that have used, say, an equal per parcel option, those are usually examples smaller scale. You've got just single-family residential homes, and so there's really not a difference in the benefit. So when you incorporate a whole variety of different land uses and property types, that's why we settled on the EAU option as the recommendation. As far as the MSBU, you have the 2-prong test where the properties have to receive a special benefit, and then the costs have to be apportioned in a fair and reasonable way. And so the main benefit of the dredging is navigability of the canals. And so that's the primary benefit considered here in our analysis, and that's how we settled on the properties with canal access and frontage.
So following up on that, so it's only those lots that have access to that have frontage and access that you are in the methodology, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Look, can I ask a question on that? In Gulf Harbors, we have local boat ramps for our community members. So if you don't live on the water, you can put your boat in. Are we doing anything for those or no? They may not live on the water, but they can put their boat in the water.
Yeah, so that property, if it's is it an HOA or something, whoever the property owner is would receive the assessment according to the methodology, and then how they recover that cost from their members is a different question. They would have to decide how to do that. But that property, if it has canal frontage, would be assessed.
Well, I understand that, but we have some property that doesn't, but I can ask that later.
Yeah, so the other thing before we had Jeff come up to provide some additional detail is just a reminder that when we talk about, 1, this is waterfront benefit, and 2, the ability here to segment the different units. So there's a number of different folks that had public comment that were concerned about the apportionment of costs and how we do this. That's why when we go back to the map here of those 8 different areas, right, and proverbially those 8 different light switches that this commission can make the choice when they're presented with the information to be able to turn those on, is we can choose depending on how we bid them and things like that, but you can have 8 different projects that could go, and you would want to try and make sure that those costs only attributable to, say, Bailey's Bluff are only assessed to Bailey's Bluff, and they are not assessed to a different unit. And so that's part of that dual-pronged benefit test that Jeff is talking about, and we've taken careful steps here to create the MSBU in such a way that we can do that.
A question when I get that the, I get that the main benefit is navigability, but at least in my neighborhood, Gulf Harbors, people cut their lawn, the stormwater drain goes right into the canals, so the grass and everything goes right into the canals, and I can't imagine that our canals aren't covered with silt. So, so they may not need to be dredged, but will there be the ability to get the silt off the bottom and anything else that's fallen in, like some people's furniture off the dock and stuff that gets blown off? Will the dredge clean the canals up and therefore start working on water quality? Because I believe we have a real effort on the west side to go after water quality.
So depending on the level of detail we want to get into, right, Nathaniel from our Public Works team and the engineers that are working on doing the formal design on that, right? I mean, you would want to go through the design process and contemplate a number of those things, right? What's the scope? What's the width? What's the depth? Right? You know, the reminder, I think, for this measure, right, all great questions for sure, is that this measure doesn't necessarily determine that, right? It basically opens the door to allow for staff to work with those experts and then clearly define each project area within each one of the 8 to determine how wide, how deep, right? Where does material go? All those different questions are tangential and happen a little bit later in the process. So, and certainly, I'm not an engineer, so I wouldn't be able to, you know, give you a great answer on how we would do that at this point. But the experts that the county would bring in to assess that project and design it would.
I'd like to add for the gentleman from Stantec, as you're doing your study, as you kind of like figure out what we're going to be looking at, I think if you look at different areas all around the county, from the first GBA study and even the Dewberry study, you're going to find that where a lot of the drains coming in, as Commissioner Starkey references, that's where you see the silt. I mean, I know even at off Marine Parkway, Gulf Harbors, where the condos are down that way there, if you look at all the water comes from US 19, runs down all that way, and it runs right into a swale, no protection whatsoever, and dumps right into the canal. And that's where one of the heaviest silt areas are. All around that with studies we've shown have shown the same thing. So I think if you can find a correlation that runoff attributes to where most of the dredging opportunities are, and there's a tie-in to it, that we should actually be looking for either our own stormwater utility, but DOT has stormwater funds available as well that we should be able to tap into.
Commissioner Mariano, carrying on with that, I think that, you know, if you read in the paper the amount of seagrass that the Tampa Bay has lost recently, and as we're just beginning our own scalloping season, and, you know, want to make sure that we keep our coastline healthy, and didn't we just call part of it a preserve, or didn't the state just do that? So it seems to me if we tackle navigability, that's a hard word to say fast, but we also tackle water quality and environmental quality, then we open ourselves up for more opportunity for federal grants.
And I'll just touch on one of the things we're looking at with the Regional Planning Council, that we talked about baffle boxes, litter
Yeah.
boxes, and
I
all
bet we
that
can
to
get
treat the
grants for
water.
that.
So we actually, you know, Colleen was fantastic being down there. I had been talking about it for about a year, and we're actually got a grant from the state for actually Pot 2 money. First time we got Pot 2 money to go through the state to us with the Regional Planning Council. And Planning Council gets the funds, and the estuary gets funds. So we're going to be able to doing a study. They're doing the first one in Wesley Chapel, but the others we're going to be looking up and down the coast. So every one of these canals we have going out, we're going to try to look at those baffle boxes. That could be part of this. It won't just be part of this MSBU, but as we go for water quality, we'll be touching on that as well.
Nope.
Can't. If you want to pull them to the side, you can ask somebody.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that while I think that it's a good point about water quality, I'm not sure that you want to mix water quality fixes with this MSBU.
That's why I said we're going to keep it separate.
Okay.
A number of different things that we tried to unpack here. So we talked about the apportionment of benefit, funding sources, the boater fees, right? And so, so we're certainly going to try and make sure we take all the public comment, get with those folks that have detailed questions. I'm trying to go through notes. We had a lot of repeat commentary. So is there any specific questions that the members of this board have not feel that they've gotten answered?
Question.
Commissioner Oakley.
Just want to call for a question,
Okay,
Ms. Starkey.
all right. We have a motion for approval?
Oh, second.
Is
I was gonna.
Is that a motion for approval?
What, I was asking her to make a motion. It's her district. and
Okay.
it's
Okay.
also,
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Understood.
I would move to approve P55.
Second.
Okay. And so roll call vote?
This is a roll call vote. So District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Yes.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Yes.
District 4, Commissioner Bradford.
Yes.
District 5, Chairman Mariano.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
In abundance of caution.
And County Attorney, can you explain my ability to vote since I live on a channel?
So the advice I would give both of you is this is unlike when these come in, and then that would be an analysis at that time, but unlike when these come in as the assessments, Justin told me before the hearing that there are over 1,600 parcels. The general advice of the Commission on Ethics with regard to vote is that in that large of a project, your property interests are small enough that you may vote. You don't have to vote. You can abstain in the abundance of caution, but you may vote.
So, Mr. County Attorney, 6,100
61,
is the figure. Yes, sir.
6,100.
6,100, so 6,096, just
Rounded up.
amending the record.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
And one question real quick to the motion maker, what was just done?
Do you think I should abstain? One
So
at
it
6,100?
passed 3-0 or
That's
what?
Okay.
It would be
No, I
it'd be 4-0.
Yeah, I think I'm.
4-0?
Yes, now,
Okay.
just a question. In the motion, was it we're going to add the word dredging in there? I mean, restoration?
So currently, the way the ordinance was noticed and is written as dredging. If there is a request of the board to amend the language in that, that's a discussion that we would need to run through the county attorney in this session to do that. Correct me if
I
I'm
would
wrong.
suggest that you leave it as dredging, just because that's the way it was advertised, and we do not have restoration as a defined term. Again, as I said, water quality, we can address differently and still avail ourselves of those.
Okay. All right, motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to take up 56 before we do procedure, since that's
Yes, let's do
that's tied with 55?
P56, please.
We have another dredging one
So
coming up.
P56 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times on January 25th, 2023, February 1st, 2023, February 8th, 2023, and February 15th, 2023.
Okay, as mentioned, Justin Grant, Public Infrastructure, Fiscal and Business Administration Director. This is this is item PIFBA 23-0185. This is a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, setting forth the intention to use the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem special assessments for the Coastal Dredging Municipal Service Benefit Unit, known as MSBU, in accordance with Section 197.3632 Florida statutes, providing for the need of assessments providing for a legal description of the real property subject to the levy of the assessments, providing for severability and an effective date.
Okay. All right. Any discussion?
Public comment. So I already did approve. Everyone that just spoke under P55 also signed up for P56, so I'm assuming their comments would stand. You might just want to, I'm not going to call their names maybe, and you can just call if there's anyone that wants to speak individually to this item.
Let me just ask the question. Does anybody want to speak to item P56? Does anyone on the WebEx speak to item P56?
There is no one on WebEx.
I will close public comment on P56.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I will abstain. Any opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, matter of fact, 4-0.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay, all passed. All right, now we'll go to our regular zonings.
Procedures?
Procedures, please.
There are two rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended approval and there is no opposition, the application will be considered by the board without further presentation. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended denial, or if there is opposition to the application, the applicant will be given 5 minutes for presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual, or 5 minutes for a group representative, and the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or Planning Commission recommendation, or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning may, at this time, request the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during the meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion and vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial public hearings. The law in Florida is mere public support or opposition of an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria found within the board's land development code.
Quiet, please.
All right, quiet, please. Thank you. And to approve.
Clerk, would you like to swear the people in?
Yes, so if anyone is here to speak to any of the public hearing items, please stand and raise your right hand so we can swear you in. I see no one.
See no one to speak, that's
Nobody?
me first. Okay, so, and we have proof?
Yes, so P57 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on August 17th, 2022.
Okay. P57?
Oh, that's continued.
It's P57 is PDD 23CU03 in the name of Home Elite LLC and Priya Properties LLC, Urban 54 Estates, to request to continue the item to a date uncertain.
Okay.
And Commissioners, this is in my district. I'll just give you a little history of what's going on here, because you keep seeing this. This gentleman has bought some land. It's just to the east of Starkey Ranch, backing up to where rangeland's going to continue on. Sometimes we call it Tower. But he wants to do apartments, and it's a C2, and it's a real challenge and I just don't know what's going to happen with this property, but at this point, it's not going to apartments right now. So we're working with them, but we'll see what happens.
All right. So
Move to approve 57, P50. No, we don't?
Move to continue.
Continue. That's what I mean. Woo! Move to continue. P50.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, item P58, do you have proof?
Yes, Tampa Bay Times, January 4th, 2022.
P58 is PDD 22CU09. It's a conditional use request in the name of Nikki Clemente and Michael Ruttman. This item was advertised as a continuance item, so the request is to continue the item to the March 21st, 2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Move continues to March 20, what is it?
21.
21,
Okay. Have a motion?
2023.
Motion and a second?
Under discussion, I was listening to the Planning Commission on this. I missed what the vote was.
Sure, the vote at the Planning Commission was to approve with amended conditions.
And so why is it being continued?
Because
Advertising.
so basically, it was not advertised properly for this date. So the planning commission had been continued as well. So the planning commission meeting that you heard was the continuance. We usually do planning commission and board 30 days from one another.
Oh, well, maybe
Yeah,
that's,
it's just tracking the prior continuance.
okay.
All right, so a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
P59, do you have proof?
Yes, in the Tampa Bay Times on January 4th, 2023, and by affidavit of certified mail.
This following item, P59, is PDD 230148. This was to be the transmittal for a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, CPAL 2201, Odessa Town Center PD. However, the team is requesting, this is a county-initiated comprehensive plan amendment. The team is requesting a continuance to the March 21st,
Hang on for a minute.
2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey because the area is expanded. We've added some property, so that needs to be renoticed.
So I have a question on this, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
This is, and just for a little background, this is a project that we started, and I just want to give other commissioners a heads up that they can do this too in their districts if, if you find a place that you think this would benefit. This is Gunn 54, where the old flea market used to be, and it's an interesting quadrant surrounded by the cemetery and a road to the south that, I'm going to think of the name, that goes, that the bus. Interlaken. And we were very worried that it was going to be piecemealed into development in a poor planning process, and people were swirling all around it to buy it, and everyone wanted to put multifamily. And there's great job potential there if we do it right. So we initiated a board, what do you call it?
Initiated.
County-initiated comprehensive plan amendment.
Yeah, county-initiated comprehensive plan amendment. But, and so I listened to it on and I saw that Mark Blanton added his piece. But why can't we go ahead and send this and then just add that? Why do we have to hold this up? Because I'd rather not hold it up personally, because I know people are knocking on those people's doors, and I want to preserve what we can.
Amy Heiler with Long Range Planning. So it's my understanding that due to the boundary change, we needed to renotice, and per statute, 14 days before the public hearing, so we didn't have that enough time to renotice. It was also at the direction of our CAO to ensure that we do notice, because we wanted to make sure that we sent DEO all of the accurate information. And with this change, we don't want to send them something and then have them review and have a modified change too. So we
But
wanted
aren't
to
the
make sure
neighbors that
everything-
we'd be notifying the ones that are already in it?
Yes, they are. Yes, correct.
So,
So it's more of a statutory alignment.
David, were you going to say something?
This is the case for any land use action. If you're adding property to what you're noticing for a land use approval, you need to renotice it. You're making it bigger than what it was before.
Which is a good thing. All right, I'm just ready for this to
think
be,
staff is
I'm
saying
excited
they-
for you guys to
I think
see it.
staff is saying they don't want to transmit something to DEO that's less than what they intend to approve at the final adoption.
All right. All right, I'm so excited to vote on this today.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to continue, sadly,
To March 21st.
to March 21st. Here
At
comes
1:30
Denise.
or soon thereafter, as they may be heard.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just
Okay.
for the record, Mr. Chairman, I knew all that. I knew that.
I read the email, but I still want to try and push it through.
Okay. We have one R item.
Did we finish the mornings?
We have one R item left, I believe.
R52?
We had one item left.
Adam, the Economic Impact and Visitor Tracking Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, fellow commissioners. Adam Thomas, Tourism Director, 1938 Duck Slough Boulevard, Trinity, Florida. Before you today is the overview of the fiscal year 2022 economic impact report from tourism. Basically, this is going to give you a broad look of what the tourism economy is like, the travel economy is like in Pasco County for the previous year. So we start off with the big numbers, the big picture, and the what. What is the overall impact to Pasco County? And in general, there's over $916 million of economic impact infused into our local economy through tourism, our tourism efforts. And that's up from 27% from fiscal year 21. That economic impact it derives from the direct expenditures from our visitors that come in on an annual basis. And they've spent over $663 million in market. That's at restaurants, lodging, retail, attractions during their stay here in Pasco County. That's actually up over 24% from fiscal year 2021. And we actually grew a little over 9% this past year in attracting visitors to Pasco County. A little over 1.4 million visitors came and enjoyed their time and their stay in Pasco County. And those visitors generated over 1.5 million room nights. And we actually had nights staying in our room nights. That was up. Thanks, I got it.
I got it.
Thank you. That's up a little over 7% for fiscal year 2021. And here's an outlook of the previous 5 years of the Pasco County economy. And you can see that there's a little blip in 2020 where there was something called a pandemic that kind of hit us globally. But you can see our trending is up. People are noticing us. They're coming here. They're experiencing our product from a visitor perspective. And the market is rich in terms of tourism. So you can see the overlook of the visitors, the room night generation, direct spend, and the overall economic impact through our visitation to Pasco County. Lodging metrics, even though we did not grow as much in occupancy, we're only up 1.5%. That is largely due to our product, our inventory, our new hotels coming online. But our ADR, which is the average daily rate, is up because inflation is up across the board. And that's actually driving our revenue per available room, which is over 30% growth from 2021.
Hey, Adam, on that slide.
Yes, sir.
Talking to some hoteliers, they tell me down the Wesley Chapel of the 54 corridor, their occupancy is like between 92 and 99%.
Yes, sir.
Think about that, folks. If the hotels are there, they're filling them up.
They're filling up. Yes, sir. And we actually have new hotel products coming online in 2023 and future development in 2024 and 2025 as well.
And I will tell you, Adam makes a joke about the Hudson area, about how low we are with room nights, but the Spring Hill Suites just opened up.
Yes, sir,
Or
it
the
did.
Spring Suites. Was it?
It's Springwood Suites.
Springwood Suites just opened up.
Springwood.
Yes, ma'am.
As
Yes.
opposed to Spring
Yes.
Hill.
I get that wrong. But yeah, they just opened up, so the numbers should be skyrocketing.
Yes,
coming up.
we can only go up from there. So what does this mean? What does the overall economy mean to Pasco County? Well, it means jobs. Tourism supports over 11,000 jobs in Pasco County and generates over $288 million in salary and wages for local residents in Pasco County. And we know that every 130 visitors we bring into Pasco County, well, that creates a job. We're putting people to work at attractions, at retail, restaurants, hotels, lodging, tour operators. We are a job generator. So all those numbers, what does it mean for someone that does not work in our industry? Well, the impact of tourism goes beyond jobs. Visitors pay sales tax and supports property taxes of hotels and vacation rentals, resulting in an average household income savings of over $384 per household. So say this in another way, the 384 figure represents how much the average household would have to pick up or contribute in taxes to maintain the level of service they currently receive from tourist spending if the spending was actually zero. So the yield of return on investment for us on the marketing front is that every dollar we invest in our marketing efforts brings $106 back into the local spending, into the local market. So that's the return on our marketing initiatives for the Pasco County economy for tourism. I'm going to stop there if there are any questions. If not, I'm going to briefly run through the demographics of who our visitors are, where they come from, and how long they're staying. Okay. No, sir? Okay. So the top reasons for visiting Pasco County, well, our visitors are actually visiting friends and family. 29% of them, 25% are attending one of our sporting events that we host here, and 16% are just coming in for a vacation. The mode of transportation, 90% are driving, and the 10% that are flying are using the Tampa International Airport. The awareness of advertising, a little over 21% of visitors actually have noticed advertising efforts from Florida Sports Coast, and 75% of those advertisements that were placed have influenced the decision-making of visitors to Pasco County. Our top sources, billboards that would be digital or the billboard displays that you see on the highway, 33%. 32% are noticing us on social media, so our social media marketing is working. And then a little over 18% are noticing us from our online placements. So the traveler journey, so where are they coming from, right? And that's another big question. Big regions for Florida Sports Coast is we are primarily an in-state drive market, so a little over 51% of our visitors are coming from Florida, 18% are coming from the Southeast, 13% are coming from the Northeast, and then 14% is coming from the Midwest, and the rest makes up the West. Of the bottom 2% of visitors are coming from outside the U.S. That is the area of opportunity of growth for us, is in the international market, in which you heard today with our friends from Belize. We anticipate that to grow once we start hitting the Central European markets, the South American markets, and the Central American markets. States of origin, Florida, as I said, is a primary state for us for travel. New York, Georgia, Illinois, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania round up the top 10. All travel parties, a little over 2.5%, or I'm sorry, 2.5 people come in a particular party, and 38% of visitors travel with at least one person under the age of 20. Nearly 25% of visitors visits to Florida Sports Coast for the first time, and over 30% were first-time attendees to Florida Sports Coast. The trip experience, this goes back to our strategic plan for the county. We asked the visitors the length of stay, a little over 4 nights staying in our market. 25% are staying in hotels and motels. 17% are staying with friends and family. And 44% of them are just coming in for the day and leaving. Top visitor activities, casual dining, food drives our decision-making. 54% visit friends and family, 54% shopping, and then 51% are actually experiencing our natural resources. So post-trip evaluation, we asked them a 1 out of 10, rate us out of 1 out of 10. Visitors gave Florida Sports Coast a 8.5 as a place to visit for a vacation, and 92% of the visitors will be returning to Florida Sports Coast. In a nutshell, that's what the visitor economy outlook looks like for the fiscal year 2022.
Okay, any questions for Adam?
Great job.
Thank you, sir.
Adam, you've been a burst of energy since you've come to Pasco County. The numbers look better and better, and appreciate all your leadership and all the great things you're doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we'll go to miscellaneous items.
right.
Committee reports. Vice Chairman Oakley.
Yep. I have more than usual this time. This past week, Premier's Zephyrhills Family Health Center, hard hat and signing of a beam in their new facility in the Zephyrhills area. Did that on February 16th. Also, there's a picture of it. Mr. Fasano was there with us, so. Okay. There are signed on the beam. I don't think they'll tear that down to see that, so. But it was good. Next, on Thursday, 16th, I attended the CARES board meeting where I was inducted as honorary board member, and had a good meeting with them and a lunch that day. Then we went to celebrate the opening of New State Highway 52 on Friday, and here we are cutting it. I mentioned to Secretary Gwynn at this ribbon cutting that if you, of course, that machine is in the way right now, but if you could look across there to the north, I don't know how far you can see, but it really reaches out a long ways to where quite a view. I told him we probably should have put a scenic view where you pull off there to look over Pasco, because all of our hills and all, that's part of Dade City, Pasco County has Brooksville Ridge comes from it, from Levy County all the way down and ends in Zephyr Hills. That's where we get our hills and that site. Most people think Florida's just flat, but as you can see, looking across to the, actually you'd think we were looking across there to the University of St. Leo, but in fact, we were checking out those bulls right there in the pasture. So, and went on to, I want
And
to
the
talk
missing
about.
trail. That's where the missing trail
I want to talk about the possibility, I think Serenova, do they have a camping area for horses, where you ride horses?
Yeah.
Does Starkey also have an area
Yes.
like that?
Yes, it has a paddock and everything.
Is there a way, yeah, but I mean for horses, for
Yes.
horse use? Is
The,
there a way to go from one to the other or not?
Well, now that's a good
Like
question.
Like a horse trail rather than,
So there are ranch roads that go underneath Ridge Road, and we want to make sure that they are open. If Sam were here or Tina, they could answer it more, but there was a time when that gate was closed by Duke, but I don't think it's them, I think it was us. So I think that gate is open now. So I think that they could go underneath.
yeah.
But
I was thinking it's
it's a
maybe
good
something
question.
we could look at in the future, because we're still growing East Pasco County and even the northeast rural area that I have a vision for. I could see the possibility of a place where you could ride your horse to and possibly spend the night there in a campsite or
Yeah,
something.
no, I know you can do that in Starkey.
And really fits into the rural area of our county.
Yeah.
And the possibility, I was talking about the vision here in the past and in the near future, I'll bring that to you and show it to you. But one of the facts is I was talking about ranchettes one day, and they said, oh, well, ranchettes, that's old, way back. I mean, you had ranchettes and all. Then I come to find out a week or two later, somebody came to me and said, ranchettes are coming back. So that is a part of the rural area, and I think that'd be a part of that new vision in some of that area where you don't have houses right up against each other and you have space. And I think that's part of that rural area and should be.
Yeah, and Commissioner Oakley, if I could add to that, you asked me if there were horse trails along the multi-use trails.
Right.
And I think that would be really smart to make sure that, especially on the east side, we add a couple of feet, for the horses, because they don't want to be on the pavement.
And I don't know, that trail might have to be different because of footing, but I don't.
Yeah,
know.
but we should be contemplating that.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I think so.
I did a bike trip years ago with my girlfriends in Vermont, where you cycle. They told me we were in the flat part, but they lied to me. And but you cycle from bed and breakfast to bed and breakfast, and then someone moves your luggage. But they had a huge tourism draw where you could do that by horseback.
Right.
And you could ride from bed and breakfast to bed and breakfast on horse trails, and they moved your luggage.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. So something to look at as we move forward, moving into the S.
And Commissioner Earl, to go further with that, I think all our environmental lands have that potential.
I
And-
think
and with the
while
new-
Swift Mudlands has that part of their property, so,
Right, and with the new penny, we did actually allow for facilities to be constructed along with size,
Yeah.
with it. So you've also got a funding source to actually make those things happen.
oh, yeah, okay. Sounds good.
I don't cycle.
Can't, well, I'm gonna go to this one. I got two items left. One is Pasco County Fair opened up yesterday. I laid a brochure on your desk in front of you, and I laid one out in front of, I only had so many, laid out one there for Mr. Kabala. If anybody would like to go during this week, I have some tickets. See me before we leave, and I'll provide you a ticket, so. to go.
Did they do the milking thing already?
No, they actually not having it this year because I guess the last dairy in Pasco County sold out to someone in Mayo, and they would have been able to do it, except they said that they couldn't get people to want to do the milk off anymore. This is a bunch of bull, but tell you the truth. Now all they got to do is have somebody ask people, and I had people. So instead of sponsoring the milk off this year, I'm sponsoring the pig races.
Oh.
There we go.
It's on the brochure. But it's all good and it's all
Okay.
fun. And if anybody wants to go,
We're
let
growing
me know.
up.
Know at the end of the meeting, and then I've got some tickets. So, last thing I have is yesterday was Pasco County Employee Appreciation Day. I don't know if we have a lot of film or anything to show yet, but it was a great day. It was a Chamber of Commerce Day in Cruz Lake. First time I ever been, and first time I'd ever walked there. Because I couldn't get any parking up front, so. But I walked, I think I walked almost 3 miles. I walked in and then walked back out, so. But it was a beautiful day. There's some pictures. It was great. I certainly enjoyed serving food to all of our employees and getting to see them and speak to them, so. You missed a big deal there, Ms. Starkey, so.
Yeah.
Hmm? Oh, I'm not very good about throwing hatchets. Mr. Kabala was a champion I saw on that hatchet throwing, because, I mean, he's done that before somewhere. Because he hardly missed. I think I made one.
Just depends on who you were envisioning on the target.
Oh,
Well,
there's a fail.
there you go. I didn't have that kind of vision, so, all right. But it was all fun. I think everybody enjoyed it. The food was great. Florida Cracker provided the food. It was from their Cook Shack location in Brooksville. They have a Cook Shack barbecue place in Brooksville, and Florida Cracker, so it really turned out good, so. Yeah.
Like pose as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That belongs in a milk carton.
Somebody said he's gonna take a picture and he smiles, so anyway, he's always, since staying on that picture a long time, he must be thinking so. I've served beans. Now, I had a lot of girls that would not, they were girly girls because they wouldn't take the beans. And then I had a few guys, some pretty good sized guys that wouldn't take the beans either, so I call them girly guys, so. Anyway, they all enjoyed it. The food was very good, very good. So that's all I have.
All right. Commissioner Waitman.
Thank you. Yeah, we talked about Chamber of Commerce weather. It's been a fun couple of weeks since the board meeting. We kicked off, so keeping in the theme of International Trade and Tourism Day, so the Tampa Cricket League and the Cricket Council of USA invited us out to throw the pitch and take a swing with the bat. And cricket, Andy and I, we've got quite a bit of experience with cricket down in Hillsborough County, and it's made its way into Pasco. And over the long weekend, there was 8 teams, one from Bermuda, Arkansas, and Miami. And they had some professional players there to get teams, ginned up and fired up. Encourage them to meet, of course, being the sports coach and all, encourage them to get with you, Chairman, since the TDC piece of it, and they were pretty excited. Like anybody, they're vying for field space and field time. And as they grow, we did an interview internationally to kick off the tournament, and of course, obviously sold Adam in the Sports Coast. And so we sold the Pasco brand, and it was beautiful weather for it. And so they'll be hopefully vying for more tournaments here.
Well, let me ask you a question. How far can you hit that ball?
Well, good question. I was afraid to swing too hard.
It's right here. Never got to you.
It never got to it.
Never got to
I
you.
just tapped it easy, It's like kind of putting,
Uh-huh.
kind of putting.
All right.
So then, of course, perfect segue, we had the kickoff of Pop Stroke. Everybody came to Pop Stroke, had a fantastic time. Talk about a wonderful new amenity and vision for Pasco County and for something to do. Commissioner Starkey's there, Chair Mariano came, and, thanks to Florida Sports Coast for helping kick it off and promote it. And the CEO, Greg Bartoli, he's a guy worth meeting in a vision, and really appreciate him investing in our community. The Pop Stroke facility, from understanding, Sarasota, it's been open 12 months, had 500,000 visitors in the first 12 months. And so they're projecting every bit of volume of customer here in the Wesley Chapel location as in South Florida. So I encourage everybody to go. I mean, it's got, for families, it's got a playground with kind of the adult area and fenced in. It's really well thought out. It's fun for all ages, and it's not your typical putt-putt golf course. So congratulations to everybody involved there, and great job on a beautiful day and a great kickoff.
It's so lush. You see all
Yes.
that landscaping behind there?
So what were the results of the tournament we had?
Oh, Chairman won. He had a hole in one. Chairman had a couple of holes in one. He brought his own putter.
Did you get a
Right, I was
trophy that
prepared.
day?
I was prepared for that.
He showed up with his golf shoes, his own putter. Here I am in a tie.
I looked in your office, and all those trophies are one from here.
No, actually,
Well, we
I'm gonna
might
go
just,
for one, though.
we might just have to notice a meeting there and have us a formal game.
I would have been there if somebody sent me up to be at Cares that day.
It's worth a visit. It's be a great visit. Next, we have the detention facility, which happens to be in District 2, so great turnout there. Appreciate the voters approving the bond in 2018, and congratulations to the team and all the folks running the jail, JJ and your squad, getting ready to expand the footprint at your facility. And it was another beautiful day for groundbreaking. And then next we have, Commissioner Starkey touched on this at MPO, and I got excited. I know the Kogan grass issue, which is more of a policy discussion. At Swift Mud, before I was finished there, we started talking about Kogan grass and how to figure out how to manage it. And I've heard Commissioner Starkey bring up Kogan multiple times. Pasco County, it's certainly not immune anywhere really in our county for Kogan. And we were looking on the FWC site, and FWC gives some pretty clear direction on the invasiveness of Kogan. Kogan grass is considered to be one of the top worst weeds in the world. It has extensively invaded North and Central Florida and distributed areas in pinelands. And so with that, I don't know what we do to mitigate it, what our best management practices are, but I figure with Commissioner Starkey here, and it's been a hot topic for her, that maybe we could get some traction on this.
And when I was on the Swift Mud Board, we talked about Kogan grass. And I think that Hernando County is a great example of what we don't want to have happen to us. And I was noticing coming back from one of those ribbon cuttings, I think the State Road 52 one, that someone has started to clear a pasture for development with Kogan grass. And here's what happens if we don't have regulations, because it happened in Aristida. They clear that off, it becomes fill for another project, and then you've brought it into another neighborhood. So that's how it was brought into Aristida. And the homeowner would not let the HOA go back in and spray it. They didn't understand what it was and what it could do. And so we had to sit there and watch it grow because we had no right to go on their property. And so it got into the wetlands because they keep mowing it. And when you mow it, it grows. And I've got quite a few neighbors that keep mowing it in Aristida. So I personally think we need to have some kind of rule here that says you cannot clear and transport Kogan grass, that it has to be disposed of in a different way. and we should research that. I think the way IFAS says to do it is to put it in a pile and burn it. But you certainly don't want to be scraping off Kogan grass and bringing it to someone else's property. And DOT has brought it in all along State Road 52 in places where they've widened it, and used it on, for fill on the side. So I've talked to Secretary Gwynn about it. So one, I think we need some kind of rule that says that you have to dispose of it properly. I don't know what that is yet. And two, I think we should contact, I would still say Senator Simpson, whatever his title is now. And, yeah, him. And ask for a pilot program out of the Department of Ag to eradicate it before it spreads. And, and maybe there's some funding that he can put towards our efforts to get rid of it before it becomes a real problem.
Commissioner Starkey, I think you saw some there at Overpass Road.
I did.
At the intersection there.
I did. And every time we mow it, we grow it.
Yep.
So,
That goes with, whoever we have our contracts with, mowing our right-of-ways. What's our best management practices? Are they rinsing? Are their blades? It's a problem, and as this stuff spreads, and with Commissioner Oakley, he mentioned his vision, and with that grass spreading up through northeast, we've got to figure it out. I don't know if we partner with, the mosquito control district, if they're out spraying, or have some interlocal with that department, work with Swift Mud, work with IFAS, maybe become a pilot through, like Commissioner Starkey said, the Florida Department of Agriculture. I was just hoping that we'd get some consensus here today on this topic, and actually take this environmental hazard seriously, and prevent it from ruining our green spaces and our parks, and so I appreciate the
yeah, and I would say Swift Mud does a great job of keeping it out of their property. And we worked with them to keep it out of their property along Starkey Boulevard when it was first built. It came up, and our family partnered with them, and we said, we'll eradicate the Kogan grass if you do this. I don't remember what the trade-off was, but we got rid of it on that side, and it did not go into the park.
I think something we can add to that, too, would be Brazilian peppers.
Yeah.
And I've had other people request, and I've
Yeah.
mentioned over the years about actually doing the same type of thing, about eradicating it in the county. And maybe we took a look at, especially if you have a homeless population, we can kind of like trigger that. But I think both of these things, we can work together on to make it happen.
I think it's a big job.
It is.
But I think if we really get Mr. Carball and your team, or whoever, to look at it and take it seriously, and just start getting it under control and mitigating as best we can, I think it's an effort that's worthwhile.
Well,
Yeah, and I appreciate that, the perspective on that. Public Works has started a program, but I think it's very small. It's probably not aggressive enough. So I'll discuss with Public Works what our options and alternatives are. We'll look at rules, other best management practices, washing of mowers to burning. Let me see what we can come back with.
But I think we also need to discuss what private landowners need to do, the responsibility before they scrape off the top and use it as fill on some project, because that's how it's getting really transported.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else?
Yes, of course. All right, well, hey, we have.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, wait, hide that.
So funny.
So,
We had that going in Aracena.
we have, so Pasco County, some good news. We have a new governing board member, Dusty Rowland, out of Dade City. He was appointed late, I think it was late yesterday or day before yesterday, to Swift Mud. So he's our representative, local farmer, business owner. I encourage each one of you who haven't met him, Mr. Oakley and I could probably set up meetings for y'all to meet Dusty and get to know him. And so we're back in business at Swift Mud. I don't know if Amber's here, but Dusty, hopefully he'll be a good representative of our county, and he's a really good person. Next, I want to thank, where's Ralph Lair, if he's in here, for getting our legislative priorities in, and working to get those on the docket. Maybe we can get some more wins up in North Florida. And then lastly, just an idea for potholes and green spaces. I saw this online and I couldn't help, we've had some long meetings lately, couldn't help but share and think this could be some solutions to some of our problems, so.
I don't know if you know it or not.
We
And
had a
Branford's
meeting
not here to stand up for himself because he's overseas, taking care of some family issues.
Oh, yeah, Branford is here.
But Branford has set up a pothole fix. He has a list, he makes a list. You call in, any of you, anywhere in your districts, you call in, and within 2 days, that pothole is fixed. And I tried it out. We called in from my office about a couple potholes on County Road 41 in front of a friend of mine's house, and he actually is the one that told me about they're having this policy. So I called it in. The next morning, my friend calls me back, Tom Johnson. He calls me back, they're already fixed. 2 potholes right on one side of the road there in front of his driveway. And I don't know why they just happened to be there, but he called, they did it right away. So then I reached out to Branford and found out he has this process in where they take the calls on potholes and they fix them immediately. I mean, within a day or 2, they're done. So that's a real blessing because a lot of those will mess up a lot of tires and a lot of cars going down the road as potholes. So it's a
So we
good
can
program. He's already got it taken care of.
So we'll skip the plants and we'll just film with us.
Yeah, we're not gonna put any,
Idea.
banana tree's not gonna
You've had a
work,
few
'cause
good
that's
ideas
not a
today.
good crop
Bravo.
for us, so.
All done, thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Starkey.
Oh, I sent some photos, trying to remember what they are. So my big thing this last week was Washington, and we had a very successful trip. As you know, I'm chair of the FAC Federal Committee, and my co-chair and I, we decided we were each going to take up an issue and then talk about it up on the Hill. And he got COVID, so he wasn't able to go and work on his. But I did work on mine, and if you remember, that was, that's not what this is about, but hang on to that. It was about the loss of funding, no, of federal medical benefits when an inmate, when someone gets arrested. And as Senator Rubio pointed out in our meeting with him, in the Social Security Act of 1963 or 5 or whatever, they used the term when someone's incarcerated, and they didn't define incarcerated. So it's just one little legal thing there that for, 60 years now has caused counties to have to absorb the medical costs of someone who's arrested and held in jail, but not, is adjudicated the right word? Not, so when you're found guilty, then we take over those costs. I'm not happy about that either, but that's not what we were arguing. What we were saying is someone should not lose their benefits. And if a lot of the people that get arrested have some mental issues and are on certain medications. And when they come out, and so Florida is a termination state. There are some states that suspend it, but Florida terminates federal benefits. And they come out and they have no health insurance, then they have no ability to get their medicine, and it's a 70% recidivism rate for those people, and it's just not a good program. So we did talk to Senator Scott's staff, Senator Rubio's staff, and went back and talked to Senator Rubio, and he was amazed, and I think we have a champion now in Senator Rubio's office to take a look at this and get this fixed. I felt my other big win was meeting with Congresswoman Virginia Fox's staff. She is the chair of Education and Workforce in the House. And Tom Madano flew up for that day, and we talked to her about talked to the staff about AM skills, which they just loved. And but we also talked about WIOA, and WIOA is the Workforce Innovation Act, and that's our federal funds coming down for Department of Labor, and that's our career source money. And it is very difficult for companies and people to be able to access some of that training money. And this has been something that my committees at NACO that we've been working on and complaining about for years. So we have an opportunity now to get Jerome and others. We're going to put them in a group and do a Zoom with Virginia Fox's staff. We may be testifying up in Washington about specific fixes that can happen with the reauthorization of WIOA that will help counties all across the country be able to access that money better. Counties send back millions of dollars every year because it's so difficult to use, especially the displaced worker funding, that no one uses it. And it's really frustrating when there's such a need and we have to send the money back. So that was very good. But I'll tell you what was eye-opening to me. So if you could put those pictures up. Because when I went in these meetings, I brought staff from other counties into the meetings. And was there another picture? Okay. Well, I'll talk about that in a second. And to listen to the other counties and their legislative people like Ralph, and they had them there, thank the congressmen and their staffs for all the money that came back to their county for trails, overpasses, septic to sewer, interchanges, getting sand on their beaches. I just was amazed because we don't do that. And it was really frustrating to me. And, you know, there's so much money out there for us to go after that. And I talked to the administrator about it, and he has a plan, which I want him to discuss with you. But we are going to get more aggressive about going after this money. And St. Lucie County told me tens and tens of millions of dollars they've been bringing back. And one of the first places I think we can get money for, because I think it's shovel-ready, is our waste-to-energy plant. And so I'm hoping that we can jump on board and go after it. You heard Secretary Gwynn at the 52 ribbon cutting say, Pasco County is so unique, they paid for their road themselves. Did you hear him say that? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So so Mike, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, so I've discussed this with the executive leadership team. It's going to come up again at the end of this week with a little more data and information. Our approach, especially to federal grants, is pretty, I'll say, decentralized within the county. I think there would be some benefits of trying to centralize and provide a little more of a comprehensive and targeted approach. Right now, we don't do that. Departments kind of work to their best interest, which is fine. They're running their businesses and doing things. But I think looking out overall for the county's best interest in a more deliberate, centralized manner is probably the way that we need to head. We're going to talk more about it, like I said, on Friday. And the intent there is for us to really chase these federal dollars. And even, I mean, you know, if I take a step back, being in this position now for 6 months of really looking at overall approach, even to legislative appropriations and how we do that after going through this cycle in the administrative role, I think there's a lot of changes that we can make to bring back more of federal and state tax dollars back to Pasco County, and that's the intent. And so more to come. I'll to the extent I need, board blessing to handle positions, we'll be taking care of that. But there needs to be a change in how we approach it. I completely agree.
In talking with some of the other counties, they felt for a lot of them that the way they found themselves being successful was to have a grant writing department and along with grant fulfillment people. Some examples here, just clean heavy-duty vehicles, which I'm sure we buy vehicles all the time. We approve them all the time. $1 billion applied directly to the EPA. Grants for low and zero-emission heavy-duty vehicles and related infrastructure. Diesel emission reductions. $60 million. Grants to identify and reduce diesel emissions due to goods movement facilities in low-income and disadvantaged communities. Commissioner Oakley, that's definitely Lakuchi and all in there. Neighborhood Access and Equity Grant Program. grants to improve walkability, safety, and affordable transportation access, mitigate or remediate adverse impacts from surface transportation facilities, and enhance planning and capacity building in underserved communities. I mean, and you saw the one up there for railroad crossings, and I sent Jack over there to talk to those people. What they did this year at NACO, I thought was brilliant. They had every single government department set up, EPA, EDA, DOT, Homeland Security, HUD, everybody. And so we went to this one on consolidated rail infrastructure and safety improvement grants as we work on State Road 54 and 41. We can get some money and not pay for it ourselves, you know. So I just really want to work with our federal lobbying team and get a list of everything that we can go after, and let's just get on it. So,
Mr. Strike, just to pile on a little bit with that, and I'd say it was the first time I've seen them set up all those federal agencies. It was amazing. I've already talked to your people about energy, Eric and Andrew. I already talked to Carl McKiska, getting with DOT, who recommended at the MPO we help them out. There's like a ton of money going direct, as they say, but so easy to get. Safety grants on US 19,
yep.
the most dangerous highway in the world, right? We didn't even apply. And there was money left over because not everybody applied. So the money's sitting there. It's going to get rolled over again. So there's an opportunity there. I think we could
they have that money sitting here in the state
I
right
think
now.
that whole underpass of US 19 could get paid for with that one grant.
Yeah.
With all that we've got and all the availability of money. Never before have we had this much money available to us. And the way President Biden spoke was like, we want to get it to the counties direct. As quick as we can, as easy as we can. So having that set up there gave every county an opportunity to go look at what can you use, what can you not. We talked about like Magnolia Valley, trying to, what to do there. Could be like a community garden center thing. Same thing with Pineapple Lane, the FGA plant over in Port Richey. I mean, the opportunities are there. 450 grand sitting there for the first grant, and they got money available, not applied for. The restoration money up and down that I talked earlier, just a touch about on the previous item, it's all intertwined about making the environment better as well. So the money's out there. Has never been greater, never been easier for a county to get. So I love the idea of setting up a team. And Mike, I appreciate your effort and openness to go forward, because we haven't had this before. So I've seen you solve complex things, Justin and mine, with that, Highlands PVAS that we did, and it's led the way for these great things. But I think if we set that team up, we get that going, focus on resiliency as well, because there's tons of money for resiliency, we can bring a lot of money back here.
Yep.
Instead of just doling it out as we do for road after road, we can make it happen.
And just like we did for the Army Corps permit, where we went up as a county, we need to go up as a county and go hit these departments. Once we have our list, we have to go meet the staff and make sure they know who we are. And Commissioner Long said they did that multiple times before they started getting the big grants from DOT, which they funded their Sun Runner with. And we just signed off on the Hillsborough one. City of Tampa, okay, tell me about City of Tampa, Mike.
I know they have a team that works pretty diligently towards that, and I will tell you that they're definitely earning their salary back hundreds and thousands of times over with the amount of money that they're bringing in.
18 million.
Make offers.
What?
Make offers. Go poaching.
Hey, they're poaching from
I'm
down south
trying.
to us, right? Let's go to put a sign up and a billboard. Adam, can you help me out with that?
Okay, well, that's really just what I wanted to talk about, the success of the Washington trip. And that I think we got real traction on that healthcare issue. And, yep.
That's it. Okay. Commissioner Bradford.
I don't know anything about lobbying, so. It works. Mr. Chair, I wanted to thank Seth for attending the groundbreaking grand opening of the detention facility. He knows that even though it's in his district, it's close to my heart, and I appreciate him letting me tag along and have a little expertise now and then. I also wanted to say, St. Pete's got the Rays, right? That's a pretty good ball team. I've got the West Pasco Little League. I was able to go out to their opening day,
Oh, nice.
try to throw out the first pitch. I'm getting old. It was ugly. They got some funding requests in. This is a shameless plug for my constituents. They have a plug-in. And so we're really excited to be a part of that process out there. That is, I was told, I didn't have time to verify it, but that is the oldest Little League on the west coast of Florida.
Wow.
Not the ball field, but the Little League organization itself.
Hmm.
So very proud to be a part of that. They're great kids, great families, completely different than the east side, but still a very, very good time. From there, we went over to Rasmussen University. Here's another little tidbit for you. Let's back up. Morton Plant High School, or Morton Plant Hospital. They started out in the early 60s in a cabin with an Army medic.
Really?
You did not want to get hurt on the west side of Pasco County and be treated by an Army medic. Now, it's a great facility now, but it started out pretty barbaric. But anyway, they took me all over. I met the historian of that area, absolutely wonderful. Told me how they've hurricaned the place and water, and they're doing a great job over there. Was able to go to Rasmussen College. As you know, everybody, we need some nurses. And they are pumping out the nurses left and right. Great university. I think they're up to, don't quote me, but maybe 600 nurses every quarter.
Wow.
So they're doing the Lord's work in that area. I did want to comment on the employees' picnic. Mike, you did a great job. It's always good to tell everybody that we care about them, that they're valued. I really think that should be a part of our culture, and I know it is. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm done.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Stuckey, you have one more
Yeah,
thing?
I just want to say I'm sorry I missed the picnic, but I had a very lengthy eye exam, which is sending me to a retina specialist, sadly. And after it was over, my eyes were dilated, and it was hard to drive home. I had to break it up in pieces. So I'm sorry I missed it, but I had a health issue.
No.
But I'll be there next year.
No doubt in my mind. It was a great event. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I just want to add to that. Thank you for attending yesterday's Employee Appreciation Day. It was a fantastic event. It's been a while since we've done one countywide, so I'd especially like to thank our Parks Department and the team of folks that volunteered. They do have day jobs that volunteered to kind of help pull this together. The leadership team for getting together and demonstrating what it means to be servant leaders across this organization. So just thank you to them and to our team. Hopefully, if you were out there, you got to see the new tower out at Cruz Lake. If you didn't, it's brand new, 3 stories, ADA accessible. It's been a little while since the original tower was torn down, so we're pretty proud of that. Also, just on a public service announcement phase here, as I was leaving the event yesterday, our fire rescue crews were out there putting out a little fire on the side of the Suncoast Parkway.
Really?
Yeah, just a little bit of a brush fire. But in my discussions with them, brush fires are picking up. So just as the weather is dry this time of year, we're warming up. It's getting windy. Just be advised that brush fires are a danger and a hazard and a threat. But our fire rescue guys are out there taking care of business. So
It was Kogan.
it could have been. So it
Kogan.
was deliberate then. No, that's all I have, though. Thank you very much.
County Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, last week, there was a case decided on the east coast of Florida, Testa versus the town of Jupiter Island. I was prepared to ask you today to allow me to file for amicus status in that case. It involves municipal law, Chapter 166, but I'm afraid it will carry over into 125 and the way you're required to advertise continuances. But in the interim, the Florida Association of County Attorneys has decided that they will go in for the amicus to try and argue that the court was wrong. I happen to be the president of that association right now, so I think our interests will be represented by that filing and don't have to file something separately on behalf of Pasco County. Just a heads up, there is both a judicial component of taking this up to the Supreme Court, and there's a legislative component where the League of Cities and the Florida Association of Counties is trying to get the law clarified. But in the interim, there are going to be some of your continuances that Mr. Carvalho is going to have to advertise. It's just, in the abundance of caution, I would recommend, and I'll get with administration about which those are. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So Clerk Alvarez Souls is at a clerk conference on the other side of the state, so that's you get me today. But I did want to mention two things. One, we did hold the Valentine's Day ceremony, and it was beautiful. I don't think we could have ordered better weather. It was absolutely wonderful. I want to thank Commissioner Oakley for stopping by and saying hi. We, 18 couples, 16 couples got married that day. 2 renewed their vows, so it was very nice. And then also in the theme of tourism, passports are hot. So pre-COVID, we issued about 175 passports a week. We're averaging about 400 a week now.
Wow.
Record-breaking this last Friday, we did 166 in one day. And, I mean, we do a whole lot of other things. Passports are just like this extra thing we do, and it's been busy. So it's perfect timing to, we have a Passport Saturday that we typically do right around spring break. So March 4th is Passport Saturday. We'll be open in both of the government centers from 9 to 1 for any citizens that want to come in on a Saturday and not have to take time off during the week. And it's first-time passports, or if your passport's been expired 15 or more years, we're able to handle. The passport agency doesn't let us, do renewals. You work directly with them, but the citizens can get their passport photos directly. We take care of that too if they want to come get that. So that's all I got.
Very good.
Yeah, cool.
Anyone here from the sheriff's office, other than our bailiff? Oh, yeah. Okay. Got a couple items. Commissioner Starkey just passed this over to me, which I've passed this on to Colleen, and she's been working on it. Some of the grants that are out there through the feds.
Put stars next to them.
Yeah. There's the breakdown of climate, energy, and funding opportunities for counties. And again, I've talked to Andrew and Eric already, but there's a couple on there that just showed, she says, investing in coastal communities and climate resilience. It's through NOAA, $2.6 billion. Grants for conservation and restoration of coastal and marine habitats and resources. Justin, you got that? All right. There's another one for urban and community forestry assistance. Grants for tree planting and related activities. One of them could be, as far as a trail goes along Sun West. We had that fire there a few years ago that got from the trees in the Swiftmud property, across the road on Old Dixie, into Sea Pines. there's a trail, and I think there's federal, if you tie it all the way up to Cheskowitza Preserve, if you go all the way up there, you could even make a federal tie-in for it too, so more opportunities, but tremendous funding opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
As we talked about.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Starkey, it's funny you mentioned about your Odessa project. About a month ago or so, I think we're here and we had a hearing on the gentleman on New York Avenue, wanted to put a piece of property up, going from what it was zoned to putting residential apartments, et cetera. And I says, no, I don't want to see that. He hadn't met with me. I met with the neighbor property and the property after that as well. They're all looking to go to a C1, C2, which is the same as what's to the north. So from Utica, which is the end property where there are some apartments on the other side, from that road all the way over to Diagonal on New York Avenue, I think there's a great opportunity to take that whole thing and bring it all to C1, C2. It's going to take a comprehensive plan amendment change and then a zoning change to make both those happen.
What's in C1?
C1, you can do,
It's your neighborhood commercial uses, I think.
so maybe,
Right.
Your entertainments?
but it's better than ROR. It's better than ROR, residential office. We don't need any of that.
That's comprehensive. ROR was comprehensive.
Well, so
plan.
that's why we're going to do both.
Yeah.
So you got ROR out there, so what they can do there is not what we really want to see out there. And with all the stuff going on to the other side of New York Ave, if that big industrial park comes. So I'll make a motion that we look at adjusting the comprehensive plan in the zoning from Utica Drive to Diagonal Drive along New York Avenue, and make it board initiated. I can't actually make that motion. Would someone do that?
I don't,
Robert's rule says you can.
Ken?
but wait a minute.
You have the same rights as the rest of us.
Not making a motion. I can second a motion. I can't make a motion.
Is that how things like that happen?
It's in Robert's rules what he can do.
Would it maybe be helpful if we saw a map, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, maybe, all right.
Yeah, I mean, has he talked
bring
with
it
the
out-
planning department and has they worked all that out?
Why
I
don't we
mean,
have them bring it?
We
back?
had
Bring it
meetings
back.
on it,
Bring it back to us.
and we went and
Need a
talked to the
motion.
neighborhood. We had neighborhood meetings.
So Terry, bring an item back for that?
Can you?
Yes, on New York Avenue.
Yeah.
From Diagonal to Utica, to the south part. There's a lot of ROR that's in there.
Right.
You just had it,
Oh,
right there. So Utica, you drive, there's some residential on the side, where New York and Utica hits, everything over to the side, it's all, should be commercial anyway, all the way to Diagonal, on the south side.
so, I don't know if you want to talk about what we went through briefly, since we're, what time is it? About how we did that gun in 54, because we did a lot of community stuff.
Well, yes, Nectaris Pieto's Planning and Development. The Gun and 54 project, also known as the Odessa Town Center, is a county-initiated project where we met with the community first in the, I think it was the Starkey Ranch Public Library, or the TLC.
Yeah, don't get me going.
The Learning Center, I think. Anyway.
Don't even. I
Yeah,
don't know.
at the library, nonetheless. We met with the community there, and we gathered their input on the project. Went back, did a number of planning exercises on it, did some feasibility studies, then took those results back to the community, got further input and feedback from the community on those results, made the refinements that we did, and then pieced together the sub-area policy and the necessary map changes that needed to happen in the comprehensive plan, and then engaged in the public hearing process to bring that to fruition.
All right, if I could stop you, though. This is not nearly that dramatic a project, not that flashy a project. If you pull that map back up again, on the northern part, you've got CMEX, heavy industrial. You've got two towing places, a storage unit. I mean, there's not a lot of fluff and flair here. There's some affordable housing apartments on the other side down there. I'm just trying to take out, we don't put apartments in there. I don't want to see any retail in there necessarily. If something comes in, so be it. But there's one person wants to come in and build some nice warehouse spaces for companies to be able to come in.
So-
Another one will come in and do even storage with some office or some other facilities in there, something that's going to create jobs.
Yeah, so our intent, so people in the Odessa Town Center don't have to comply with what we just did. It's voluntary, first of all. And second, we didn't do it, we weren't trying to cover a cost for someone who was coming in for a project. We were trying to do good planning in an area, I don't know what the correct term is. So, I don't know, are these guys planning on coming in to change it?
Well, that's my point. The first one came in, had met with me before, and I know the guy beside him wanted to do something.
Then why would we pay for it?
Because the other guy that come beside him, he wants to come in and do something. He needs a full change on both ends.
Well, he
The
can
o-
come pay for it.
Well, let me just continue if I could. So you've got one gentleman that come in that was gonna get denied. He decided to continue rather than get denied. So we tried to work with him, and we could meet with him. I met with him. The other one beside him, he says, I'm looking at going to do this. What do you think? We'll think about that. I says, well, if you come in and do that, that actually fits a lot better. And then that'll help the other guy as far as more compatible with him. And then the other guy to the other side wants to do something with heavy, let's say, a C2 commercial as well. So I've got 3 parcels out of 5 just along New York Avenue. Never mind if I get the other parcels to the side pulled in, I can make this a whole quadrant that'll be C1, C2 generating and create jobs right where we want them to be.
Well, why
So if I
not go
do-
from diagonal to, all the way over and do the whole area? Do a big area?
You know what, Terry, we can look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I can say, right now, you're asking me why, I've got 3 people that need comprehensive land use and zoning changes to make it happen, to create jobs from what they've got. It'll take away the apartment pressure and make something happen. So we can look at the whole area, I'm good with that too. And we'll bring something back to the board.
And the idea is to go from ROR to.
ROR to
IL is the industrial light future land use?
a IL is good.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to go heavy in there.
No, but, yeah, we can go IL, that's good.
IL would be.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
begs the question, where are we on the planning exercise that we're going to have on the form-based code? Because we wouldn't have to do any of this.
That's not
I think,
necessarily
well,
true.
yeah, not exactly, but it just does beg that question. Are we?
I'm working with Frank now. We texted a little bit, I guess, when I finally reached out to him. He was traveling. He's back in town now, and so we're working on setting something up.
Okay, great.
Okay, so my last 2 items, the Shrimp and Crab Festival is coming up March 3 to 5.
What is? What is?
The Shrimp and Crab Festival
Oh,
at
I saw
Sunwest
your,
Park.
I've seen your signs.
Should be good up there. Not my signs, but, yeah. Snipe signs, I get it. Shrimp and Crab Festival coming up. And then, after we go up, I will be working on the scalloping as well, as we hear more and more about it.
You want to do
And
what now?
I would try and lengthen the
Scalloping,
season.
trying to get the season opened up, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna work everything.
I've been
everything we
talking
can.
to the ED there with them.
Yes, that's right, you have the
And
connection
talking
there.
to them about lengthening the season. And I don't believe we have the ability to lengthen the season because they're afraid if they lengthen it, you kill out more of the seed that makes the next season good. And so we're just gonna have to stay with a 10-day season, it looks like right now.
Well, being that we're talking about it, I will tell you, the data shows that compared to Citrus and Hernando, our numbers are stronger and better.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, these
The
scallops.
reason they are
Yeah.
is in those areas you're talking about are long seasons. And people go take them out and don't have enough seed left to make it flourish and come back the next year.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Oakley. I mean, I think we need to
I mean,
get our
that's
boat
what I was
ramps.
told by their
Yeah.
experts.
And again, after 20 years of not being able to scallop and now just getting started on it, those scallops die in a year anyway, right?
Yeah, they do. A scallop dies, but we do need that seed.
They leave seed there, so.
I would want to wait and see what Hernando and Citrus look like next year because it was so bad this last
wasn't
year.
worth going
They
last
need to recover,
And Eric
and
Sutton
we'll
is,
get
executive
slaughtered.
director I talked to.
Everybody will be in our area and will get picked out.
I heard this past year,
Go
the
ahead, Ralph.
success
Come
was
on up.
tremendous.
Oh, Mike has
Better
something
here
to
than
say.
up there.
I understand, I
Yeah,
heard the same
yeah.
thing. But they say if you lengthen your season, you could kill it out and not end up again without a season. You don't want to end up without a season.
No.
And so if I could add to that, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Oakley, yeah, I mean, that's exactly their fear. They don't want to just go in and just extend the season without some study behind it. So they've asked, we do perhaps have some tourist money that we can spend to initiate a study that can provide some science behind it and then see what the right number is.
All right, you know what, let's do that. As a matter of fact, Adam and I had talked about that, so we'll bring it to TC, bring it forward and do a study. But we need to expedite that real quick. Okay.
But eventually, I do want to lengthen it, I mean.
Well, I understand.
I
but
just
it's
want them to
gotta-
be better.
All right,
We want it to last, not
Yeah.
just lengthen and not last.
Yeah.
we'll work at getting the data in place.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and folks, that's all I have. We're adjourned.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Oh,
Before you
Commissioner
start,
Bradford, yeah.
I just want to stop on everything we all can agree on. When it comes to Washington, you print it, they'll come. Go get it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Go.
All right,
If you
we're
don't know,
adjourned.
you're not going to get it.
Thank
if you don't know.
That's it.